route, and it won't be in person. And if that's all we lose from college football, really big deal.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly fine and happy if that was all that we missed. But I completely understand why the SEC is holding out. We've already gotten to a point just in the last couple of weeks that we didn't think was possible. We didn't think that college athletics was going to be set to start. We didn't think that June 1st was going to be a realistic date to where we can have student athletes on campus. So if things keep progressing and advancing the ways that it is, by mid-July when SEC Media Days normally is, there might be a chance that you can have a small media group.
Maybe so. And like the SEC may have to go back to CBS and say, hey, sorry for thinking we were too big a deal and we were going to blow doors and make extra money with someone else. Wouldn't it be too funny if they had to go begging back to the Winfrey?
Oh, it really would. And the SEC, with the tail between their legs, is something that they're not used to doing very often.
It's very rare. That's where the tail gets for them. But like you said, we have made progress. Again, if this was battle of the network superstars, or when they had the old tug of war contest, the tape's been moved a little bit. Nobody's been dragged into the pit. No, I mean, we hadn't dragged the virus into the pit. The virus is alive and kicking for sure, and still very scary. And this weekend, I want people to enjoy and recreate. And you got good common sense, and you don't need to be lectured by the guy on the radio. I know that for darn sure. But we were scared of spikes from Mother's Day gatherings, and this weekend is a big gathering time, and I know people are busting at the seams to get out. So just, be smart, as we say, safe, smart, and soon for sports back, and be safe and be smart, and hopefully we'll get sports back. But I think the tape's been moved a little this weekend. It's not as daunting. The hill is still very tall, but it feels like it's been scaled a little bit from the dreary old days of April into the month of May. And with that, then next week we'll transition out of May into June. I want to thank everyone, sponsors, listeners, callers, texters, emailers, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. However you have communicated with us, listened to us, keep up with us. Thank you so much for staying with us during these trying times. I know it's been tougher on some than others, much tougher on those frontline medical people or somebody afflicted and ill with the virus. And I hope we've been able to be a little bit of the word normalcy, normality, just something like the old times. I hope we've been able to do that for you, and we're going to keep trying to do it for you until we get sports back, and we can hopefully get it back in a form that we recognize. The NBA, they are really, I think, behind the scenes moving at warp speed. Baseball, I hope and trust that they are. I don't know anybody around baseball that needs to be taking the weekend off, Drew.
Yeah, I don't know anybody either, and it seems now reports coming out today that July 15th is kind of a starting date that's been pushed around Twitter throughout the yesterday and throughout the afternoon today for the NBA. But I kind of want to agree with some sentiments that was said on the show yesterday regarding to Major League Baseball. Maybe no news is good news, because maybe Rob Manfred isn't out there fishing for that right idea. He's not out there just trying to grasp at something that somebody else might have an idea about. Maybe he's actually got an idea, and it might possibly be the first good idea he's had as commissioner. If that is the
Drew,
case.
we signed up. Yeah, we signed off last night, almost laughing about our hockey picks. Hockey moving, I won't say warp speed, and they might be the last to go because of the international flavor to it with Canada and all those players from really every corner of the globe. No other professional sport, no other sport in the United States has such an influx of literally the United Nations represented as the NHL is they do. So you have to work out that. But they're talking about hub cities, east, west, 12 teams from each. And Drew, I looked at the standings as it would make up the playoffs. I'm sorry, but you don't have a team even alive with that. Well, in the East, you would have Tampa Bay. You had New Jersey winning the East over Tampa Bay. New Jersey would not be in even under these expanded playoffs in the NHL.
Yeah, I truly
and in the
that one.
And in the West, San Jose over Nashville. Nashville would be in. Would San Jose? I don't know if they stood out.
I haven't looked at the standings in quite a while, but I know as far as on the Preds side, the stoppage of sports and COVID could not have hit for a worse time for Nashville because they were finally starting to get their season going. I think within the 3 weeks before, they had been the best 3 weeks they'd had all season. So that pick was finally starting to look up for me.
I had Toronto over Calgary, and you had New Jersey over San Jose, and Dave had Tampa Bay over Las Vegas. So maybe we'll get the NHL back and had some good times and some laughs with that. Another big news story from the day, Jerry Sloan passed away. Great Bulls player. Had his number 4 retired for his playing days with the Bulls, and he had a number retired in Utah for the number of wins that represented the wins he had in his 23 years of being a head coach with the Utah Jazz. The Jazz had they've had really two legendary coaches, two that they've honored with some type of retirement status, something in the rafters, Frank Layden and with Jerry Sloan. And I didn't realize this about Jerry Sloan. I remember him very well as a hard-nosed, screen-setting, tough guy, kind of an enforcer type in basketball back in the day with the Chicago Bulls. Did not realize he played his rookie year with the Baltimore Bullets, but 78 passes away from the effects of Parkinson's, and he's had a long illness. When we visit with Bruce Marshall at the bottom of this hour, Bruce wants to visit about some of the greater coaches of all time and some of the coaches that, as we like to call it, Drew, the coaches without a major. Jerry Sloan would be at the top of that list.
Yeah, he definitely would. I mean, those teams that he had in Utah were legendary if it wasn't for the teams that he had to face year in and year out in the West, and then, of course, with Michael Jordan, the Bulls over there in the East. So definitely one of the best coaches to never win one. And, you go back to being somewhat of an enforcer, that type of play in today's game is long gone. We talk about how players would transition into today's game, and I don't think it would be a spot for Jerry Sloan, unfortunately, being a good basketball player that he was.
It's really one of the dichotomies of sport. Back then, it was tough and hard-nosed and screen setting, no threes, but the game was a pretty open flow, big scoring games. You go to Basketball Ref and look at box scores from the 74 playoffs. They weren't 79-78 grind fest. They were. It was pretty wide open. 110, 105. Games like that, and that was without a 3-point line, but it was with more hard-nosed defense. I like today's game much better than the 90s brand of basketball that so many people have had a reawakening or a first awakening about from the Last Dance documentary. And I enjoyed The Last Dance, but it would have had a very different finish if Jerry Sloan could have won one of those 2 years. What if he'd have won both?
Yeah, it would have been completely different. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about Michael Jordan with the 6 championships, the 2 three-peats. And, I get the nostalgia effects of the 90s. I like to look back at the, being only 25, my nostalgia area would be the 2000s. And, I thought college basketball and basketball then was a lot better than it is today, just because that's what I grew up loving and how I watched the sport. But when you really sit down and watch some of those games and you can really compare it to today's game, the game's never been at a better spot. I mean, it's just way more entertaining.
I think a lot more athletic.
Yeah, there might not be the brawls and the bloody noses from the hard-nosed defense down low in the circle, but I'd much rather watch, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson combined for 23s and the final score be 123-118.
Very well said.
Me too.
Very well said. I couldn't agree with you more.
It was, Carl. So agree. And the hard-nosed style of a lot of the 80s, 90s, late 80s, 90s play, I've said many times, that's great. That's not basketball. to clothesline somebody. I'm sorry that's not even allowed in the NFL. If Jack Tatum came back now.
No, it's not. And I think the jokes that you hear about today about today's game, no more, you can't do the hand checking. I think I'd be okay if hand checking came back into basketball just to give the defense a little bit more credit. But basketball was never designed to be a physical, hard-nosed game. People weren't supposed to be breaking bones. If you wanted to break bones, go play in the NFL.
There's a sport for that, and I like good hard-nosed, rear-end low defense at the college game. And one coach that I loved really kind of, I don't know if glorified it, but sure excelled by it, was mostly defense, was Eddie Sutton. And he's on that list that we'll talk about with Bruce of the great ones to never win a major. And one of the reasons why, he forgot about the offensive end a lot of nights and just thought you could win 45-44. And a great coach and won a lot of games, and I love him to death. But the coaches that, Mr. Iba did it, and Bobby Knight did it, and he won plenty with it. You sure can't argue that, and so did Mr. Iba. But they kind of made that their calling card, whereas I liked a little more offense than even back in that day. Lefty Drizel, who didn't win one, he kind of had the happy medium. He wanted to play some defense, but also knew on the other end that the object of the game was to actually score.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a scoreboard there. The team with the most points wins. I mean, the old saying, defense wins championships, I think is somewhat true, but you got to score. I mean, earlier today I was talking about Tiger football, and somebody brought up how great the defenses were under Keith Butler in the late 80s and 90s. Well, yeah, the defense was great, but they kind of forgot how to score to win ball games. The
defense is supposed to set you up to win the game.
Yeah,
because
you still got to score.
That's right. Field position call. And we talked about that with Russell Copeland a few weeks ago when we had Russell on. There's Russell on one side and Isaac Bruce on the other, and at minimum, complementary running backs, sufficient running backs, pretty good tight ends in that cast of characters. Steve Matthews and some other quarterbacks that were at least sufficient, complementary. And, you got to go out and kind of win every game 19-17. That gets hard to do, and unless you're really, really proficient at that kind of defense and special teams, you know what happens at the end. Heartbreaker. You lose 20-19 instead of you winning 19-17. It gets out the back door on you.
Yeah, that's what happens when you forget to score the ball and really concentrate on the offense. I love defense just as much as the next guy, but like we said in the NBA, I like football the way it is right now too. I like the 45s to 41s. Other than the
lower it a little bit. Lower it a little bit.
I'd take that much more than y'all.
Than 10-7.
Y'all's 10-7 or your 0-0 ties that apparently greatest
game
of the century.
To the tie.
You
got to go to
the tie.
You got to go to the Ole Miss Memphis tie 0-0 in 1963. And no, I had not turned 1 year of age that September, so I was not there, Drew, in 1963. So you can't hold the 0-0 against me like you do.
Well, okay, I won't hold the 0-0 against you, but every other tie in sports history, I'm going to hold against you because you, for some reason, liked it.
You can't hold in 2005 in one of the best games I've ever been to. Alabama, Tennessee, third Saturday in October. Tennessee hadn't lost to Alabama in about 10 or 11 years. Final score, 6-3, and it was classic.
See,
it was classic, Drew.
You got to see somebody get in the end zone for it to be a classic.
We are in our Family Leisure Studios, aren't we, Drew?
We are in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Family Leisure is here to make staying at home more enjoyable for you and your family this summer. Complete pool packages starting at $15.99, 24 pools only $19.99, 4-person spas starting at $19.99, swim spas at $99.99, high-quality swim set discounts to $21.99 from $34 to $34.99, where they're offering contactless purchase, delivery, and curbside. Give them a call to schedule an appointment or place an order and stay safe. That's Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
Bruce Marshall at the bottom of this hour from the Goal Sheet and the progress we think we're making around sports, including Las Vegas, that might be the western hub city for the NBA, as Orlando looks to be the eastern city. Pat Smith at 4 o'clock from Jocks down in Birmingham at 4:30 from the Daily Memphian, one of the more reasonable voices in town. Our friend John Varlas, he joins us at 4:30. 5 o'clock we talk NBA with Andy Schiffman as he's about to get back to work and back to Chicago, his home base. He's a native Memphian, but he works out of Chicago. We'll visit with Andy at 5 o'clock. At 5:30, a lively round of high hard ones. Also at 4:50, we don't want to forget this, Drew. The top 5 things that you have missed about sports in these last 71 days of no sports, and today's the day that it's a tie. No sports now. I know we've had the UFC and we've had the hit and giggle golf and NASCAR making a start back, and I applaud all those because they've been great. They've been kind of great rabbits out there for us to kind of to go out and plow the ground for the rest of the sports come back. But for me, that's not primarily my sport. So 71 without what I really like, 11th
days.
Weekend, 71 days.
It really doesn't even seem like it, but it's been 71 days.
Yeah.
That Carl, in a blink of an eye, in some fashion, it doesn't. In some ways, it feels like it's been a blink of an eye. It feels a little bit interminable at times, but then at other times, it feels like we kind of just proceed on. 11th straight weekend without some of the primary sports. Today also marks 99 days until the scheduled start of college football. This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Call them at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Sales Event this weekend as we finish May and head into June. Get by 2600 Ridgeway. Great offers on all 2020 models and always special lease options. If you've ever thought I'd look great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look great in a Lexus too. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by at 2600 Ridgeway at Lexus of Memphis and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500. You'll be looking and driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design that makes for the luxury driving experience. 901-362-8833. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Drew, you first.
Well, I was going to talk about the college athletics and how it's looking up as SEC came out with their starting date of June 8th. But breaking just a few minutes ago, according to Adam Schefter, ex-Broncos and Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco has agreed to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract with the Jets. Schefter does report that it looks like he will be the backup on the roster behind Sam Darnold and that his contract could increase to as much as $4.5 million. But I'm just glad that Flacco is staying in the NFL. My second favorite person to ever wear the number 5.
You are a Joe Flacco guy. Who's your favorite number 5?
A different college football, Joe Doss, my favorite Tiger of all time.
Your favorite? I thought you might be going Jeremy Hunt. Didn't he wear number 5?
He did wear number 5.
Yeah, Jeremy Hunt was a good number 5. Joe Doss is your guy.
He is my guy. And I think I embarrassed myself a little bit. Like, we're somewhat of, I'll say we're
buds.
acquaintances. We're buds. Like, we see each other out.
Yeah.
We talk.
You get a head bob from him?
Yeah, I love to introduce him to all my friends. They're like, this is Joe Doss. Hey, I remember you. Yeah.
Oh, and a good player. I'm glad. Were y'all in school together?
Me and Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, Joe's 10 years older than me.
Okay, that's right. He is. Yeah, that would have been around 2001, 2002 that he was a great player. So he was your first star player that you fell in love with as a little guy.
Yeah, Joe was my guy because I've always, when it comes to great players, I mean, around that time, Danny Wimprine and, of course, D'Angelo Williams, but I just love Joe's tenacity. And real quick story of why Joe's my favorite player. Very little kid reason. I'm in the south end zone. He scores a touchdown. I point at him. He points back at me. Favorite player of all time.
That's it. Drew, way back when I was around that age, 1969 or 1970 or so, and I told you the uncle that I'd go to Tigers football games with, my first favorite Tiger football player was a running back as well because he was a little guy, and I knew I wasn't going to be Andre the Giant, and fell in love with Paul Skeeter Gowan. My top story, the report from Syracuse University, printed and quoted by ESPN, that only 2 athletic departments could be self-sustaining without help from student fees or university support. Out of 130 FBS teams, only 2 could make it without football ticket sales, Georgia and Texas A&M. We will have football. And how about this? Let's quit spending money like there's an endless supply of it and we have seeds to the money tree.
Yeah, no need for waterfalls and indoor swimming pools and your mini golf courses in the practice facilities. There's just no need for it because, one, I know it looks flashy when you have recruits come by, but they're never going to have time to use it anyway. So how about we put that money in the rainy day fund?
And just the idea, Drew, if you make $100 and you have to spend $100, how about just spending $85 of it and socking away a little, and we don't have to have these massive cuts for other sports. I know historically, before the virus hit, we could because we could. But those days are over, and it's just shocking that the financial management is that poor.
Not top story of the day.
My not top story of the day, Memphis wide receiver signee Kendarius Taylor has become the first player this year to put his name in the transfer portal. Taylor had 31 catches for 574 yards and 8 touchdowns last season in JUCO his freshman year. Taylor, of course, is a wide receiver out of Ridgeway High School here in Memphis who originally signed with Oklahoma, sorry about the misspoke there. But I'd say this is still a great thing for Ryan Silverfield and the University of Memphis. Only one player in a year that you're transitioning coaches. I think that means that recruits and current players were all on board for Ryan Silverfield to take over for Mike Norvell.
Drew, not just transitioning coaches, transitioning and changing with, metaphorically speaking, an atomic bomb hitting all of our lives. No, that didn't happen, but something very devastating happening to only have one. My not top story. Some Major League Baseball teams with no cuts and no furloughs of front office employees, but some with. It'll be a window into free agency next winter of who could be buying, selling, or holding next winter. If you're having trouble right now with payroll and employees, you can't make a big splash in free agency next winter because you're not making any money this year. And otherwise, Memorial Day weekend would have been when the standings first start to matter, codify a little bit, but not this year is what we are going through, and we're all aware of what we're going to. Again, Bruce Marshall at the bottom, coming up next at 3:30, Pat Smith from Jocks at 4 o'clock, John Varlas from the Daily Memphian around 4:30, Andy Schiffman with us at 5 on the NBA, and High Hard Ones at 5:30. Drew Barrett in the studio today, co-hosting, Carl Morris producing, Dave taking the day off. Will be back with us on Tuesday afternoon. This is Sports Time, and up next will be Bruce Marshall.
Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy get you through the midday with Sports 56 Middays. Delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 till 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
There's a new commissary in town in Collierville. Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown Commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown Commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levy Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking. No telephone pole to get in your way. A cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stack. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolochen and Brett Norsworthy.
67129, the First Bank text line. 67129 at the First Bank text line. 360-8255 at the First Bank phone line. And First Bank, you can build your success story with First Bank. That's FirstBankOnline.com. First Bank, they know what you need. Reliable, trustworthy Memphis bankers that can give you an answer about you right here at home. So many people with PPP loans, difficulties with some of the big regional or national banks, not with one that knows you, not with one that you know them, and that's First Bank. They get to know you and they get to care about you. You're a very valued customer in good times and in these tough times. First Bank, they know exactly what you need and they make the decisions for you right here in Memphis. A direct answer from the First Bank banker you're dealing with. First Bank with stories and a record of customers reaching high. Community banks are the preferred lender of people building a success story. Build your success story with First Bank. First Bank Memphis Online.com, and we appreciate them. 67129 at the text line, 360-8255 to call us. Every Friday we check in with our friend from the Gold Sheet. Bruce Marshall joins us now. And Bruce, in this period without sports, there's been a lot of subject matter delved into. We've enjoyed a lot of the documentary, The Last Dance. You've been writing about and talking about some of the great coaches of all time, and we call it the best coaches to never win a major. One of those passed today in Jerry Sloan. Great coach, he just never won it all. How are you, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm fine, Brett. Nice to be with you. Yeah, Jerry Sloan never, he came close, and those Utah teams were awfully, were awfully special for a long time. I mean, he won with some different mixes there. The best mix that were the Malone-Stockton years. But I remember Sloan as a player too, and he really epitomized how tough the Bulls were. He was there from the outset with the Bulls. The Bulls were never really bad as an expansion team. They made the playoffs their first year. They had a losing record. The NBA was a 9-team league back then, so it was a little bit different. But he was there from the outset, and when the Bulls really got good about 1970 or so, he was an integral part of those teams with Norm Van Leer and Bob Love and Chet Walker. I mean, just tough as nails and very difficult guy to play against. But he was one of my favorite players before he became a great coach.
But he became a great coach, and Utah really had two of those types in Frank Layden and in Jerry Sloan, great coaches that did not win at all.
Yes, and I remember, how the Jazz rose under Frank Layden, and then when Jerry came in, about 89 or so, at the outset I wasn't quite sure because Sloan had a run as head coach of the Bulls for a couple of years. It didn't work out too well, but he didn't have a lot to work with there. But the Utah situation worked perfect for him, and he stayed for for over 20 years as a coach for the Bulls. So that was very unique. And you're right, he and Frank Layden, I think, would be in that category of great coaches who didn't win one.
Bruce Drew here. What do you think about George Karl? Do you think he would kind of be in that same category?
Yeah, Drew, I think he would, because Karl was effective and he won, almost everywhere he was. So I think he would probably be in that category. Don Nelson might be too. I don't think Don Nelson ever won a title, but he might be in that category too. So, yeah, I think you'd put Sloan, Don Nelson, George Karl, great coaches who maybe didn't win it all, but I mean certainly all very very outstanding in their own right.
Maybe the poster person for this ignominious, dubious award of best coach to never win a major. And Bruce, there are times that I have to go check. Now, is that right? He never won a national championship? And it is correct. 0-time national champion head coach, Bo Schembechler.
Yes, you are correct. Michigan came awfully close a few times. And I was just thinking about this the other day. 72, 73, 74. I mean, the only games Michigan did not win in those years came against Ohio State, 2 losses and a tie, and Michigan could have won any one of those games. 71 also, Michigan was unbeaten until it got to the Rose Bowl and lost to Stanford. Probably wouldn't have been national champ that year. That probably would have gone to Nebraska anyway, even if Michigan had won the Rose Bowl. But given a chance, 72, 3 or 4, I mean, those teams were just as good as any Schembechler teams and never quite got a chance. And then he had some other ones throughout the later 70s and into the 80s that were awfully good as well. But you're right, he never won one, but he certainly came close several times.
Bruce, who would you say would be today's Bo Schembechler that should have had one by now?
It's his school.
Yeah,
could be, Bruce.
Mr. Harbaugh, I guess. I mean, he would certainly be one, I think. You think about him being one. Schembechler, it's a little hard because we're looking at Schembechler in retrospect now. So, I mean, some of the guys who are still going still have a chance to do that. But, I think I mean, Harbaugh certainly, could be one. Too soon to say that about a guy like Lincoln Riley. He's come close, but he's only been a head coach for a few years, so it's too soon to say it about him. Too soon to say it about James Franklin. He's going to have a lot more chances with Penn State and
Chip Kelly
like that. Yeah, although he's not helping himself for the last couple of years at UCLA. He's sliding down the list a little bit, but yeah, that would be another one. Chris Peterson was great, didn't quite win. It's a good question. Kyle Whittingham, there's another one. But, Schembechler was so close several times, and even more so than Harbaugh, I think. So he's, Gus Malzahn, their national title at Auburn came when he was an assistant coach. So, at some point he might get that conversation too.
Is it realistically to put Gary Patterson at TCU there? Because he's been there forever.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, and I don't think he'll ever win one, but he got close, and he's sort of in a, he might be in that Bill Snyder category. A guy who was great. Frank Beamer, another one. Perfect.
John Cooper.
Yeah, and interestingly, Patterson is a Kansas State guy. There's a lot of people thought at some point he'd succeed Snyder there, but he's got such a good deal at TCU, they're never going to move him out. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a lot of coaches like that, and even a couple when we were talking about all-time coaches who fit in that, who I'd rate in the top of my all-time list who never won a national title. So it's a pretty distinguished group.
And you bring up a good point, Bruce, for Jim Harbaugh. For Michigan fans get too mad at me about kind of just the facts about Bo Schembechler, zero-time national champ, and the possibility that the biggest one right now may be Jim Harbaugh at his school. He's still got time. And, Bruce, we can remember when it was really – it was around his neck that he couldn't win the big one, and then he started winning it all the time in Tom Osborne at Nebraska.
Yes. Oh, that's a great example there because, Nebraska came awfully close several times with Osborne and finally broke through in, the 94 season there? Finally broke through. But, and by the time he wrapped it up, I guess he had 3 of them. Right at the end, he started to win some. But, that's the thing. I mean, you'd put Osborne's first year as head coach was 73. You could go the first 20 years, and Osborne, that was the thing. He never won the big one, but by the end he had won a few. So we let Osborne's career complete, and then it changed the narrative a little bit. Maybe it'll be the same thing with Harbaugh. I tend to think not, but that's right. Schembechler and Osborne, pretty similar, except right at the end, Osborne ended up winning a couple and Bo didn't.
Kind of taking it up just one more level, instead of coaches that haven't won one, who's the first guy that you think of that's almost, I won't say disappointing, but just never really lived up to it, who just won one?
In college football, I don't know if we want to say Coach O, but I don't know if we put him in that category. So
little soon, Gene Chizik. How'd he win one?
Well, sure, there you go.
We know how. Cam.
Sure. I mean, Gene Chizik definitely would figure in that conversation. Sure, one-off thing with Auburn that year. So I think he'd probably figure into that bunch. It's funny, you brought up Schembechler before, and now we've got Coach O. And it's funny, Coach O's got a national title under his belt, and Schembechler never had one. So that's kind of interesting.
Wow, that has to smart. And I tweeted that out the night of the national championship game that Ed Orgeron has one more than Bo or Jim Harbaugh combined because they're sitting at 0. We do this exercise at times, Drew and Dave and I. We do, Bruce, on best to never win a major, but we also do what Drew just did. It's a little rough, but they just won one. That is tough grading, isn't it?
That is really tough grading. But you win one, and this goes into basketball too. I mean, you could have Jim, and that's the Jim Boeheim syndrome there. I mean, all those great years.
John Calipari.
Yeah, that's right. Boeheim, Calipari just won one. But back to college football for a second, the guy who I have 2 coaches all the time who I put at the top, and I guess we could put him in this list of great coaches who never won, was George Welsh. And I believe not everything, the field is not equal level everywhere in college football. But the job he did, and when he did it, reviving Navy in the 70s, at a time when it was very difficult for service academies to do that. Ranks among the greatest achievements of all time. Plus, there are 2 other achievements in college football that I think rank these coaches, by me, I think the greatest accomplishments almost in college history. That's Welsh and Ara Parsegian. Being Welsh getting Virginia to the top of the polls for a few weeks there in 1990, and Era getting not necessarily Notre Dame, but Northwestern to the top of the polls for a couple of weeks late in 1962, after he got the Wildcats up to as high as number 2 in the country in 1959, I believe. Those 2 accomplishments stick out for me like as maybe the 2 greatest. And, there's some Mississippi State fans who might say, hey, how about Dan Mullen, a few years ago with the Bulldogs when they got to the top of the polls? Well, yeah, close, but I don't think anything quite, considering what you're working with at Virginia, the situation there, and what Era had to work with at Northwestern. It was every bit as tough to win in the early 60s at Northwestern as it has ever been there. More tough for Era than it is now. I love Fitzgerald, but he gets more players in there than Era could have got in. Those are the 2 greatest feats, I think, in college football, by my argument at least, and why I think Welsh and Parsegian are really two of my favorites of all time.
And then after Era, that job became almost impossible till they had their renaissance and went to the Rose Bowl in 1995. Bruce, it looks like we're about to slowly start reopening, and the NBA plan sounds like there will be the Eastern Conference teams in Orlando, in a hub city, and in Las Vegas for Western Conference teams.
Yeah, we were thinking about this for a while, and now they're getting around to it. And we thought by the end of May, these leagues might have some more definitive plans. It always made sense for the NBA to do that. I mean, they're in Vegas anyway in the summer for the Summer League, and there's a few venues they can use. They can do the same thing in Orlando, and play games without fans. They can do it, and they could still televise the games and do whatever they must. But you're right. It looks like they're coming around. The NHL has a few other hurdles because they've got a lot of players who don't live in the country, and they're going to have to work around getting them back in and some Canadian teams. But a similar sort of thing could work with the NHL. Well, it looks like we're getting some serious plans about getting this going. And there's even, we're going to have to start talking about college football pretty soon too. But even some encouraging notes from the one league I was most concerned about, the Pac-12. It looks like it might be coming around as well. So I'm beginning to think now there's more than a 50-50 chance we will have college football in the fall.
Yeah, obviously, like y'all just said, West teams playing in Vegas, which I think Grizzlies and New Orleans don't think make a heck of a lot of sense. I'm pretty sure Orlando is a little bit closer than Las Vegas, Nevada. But with that plan being in place, have you actually seen any preparation, around town, them doing any construction or kind of adding on to anything right now in Vegas?
Yeah, there's not much going on here, Drew, but there are existing venues that they've talked about before. Consider when they do the Summer League, there are actually two venues side to side there at UNLV. There's the Thomas and Mack Center, and there is the Cox Pavilion. So they run the Summer League. They run games concurrently there when they play the Summer League at UNLV. So you got two venues right there. Just down the street, less than a mile, is the MGM Grand Garden. You could have that. And another quarter mile away is the T-Mobile Arena. Then you've got one over at the South Point Hotel. You got another one at the Orleans Arena. I mean, so there are six venues you could use within about 3-4 miles of one another, and there's hotel space. Well, let's assume they open up the hotels and and the governor gets on the ball here and allows this thing to go through. But venue-wise, it works for Vegas. It could do it. They're already here. Nothing much has been going on down there, but they could, once this stuff starts to slowly open up, they could get this stuff ready really quick in Vegas, I know.
Bruce, and we're all looking for hopeful signs, and we're getting more and more every day, baby steps, maybe the big giant step for mankind coming soon. But today, the reposting of odds in Las Vegas on Major League Baseball teams. They don't post them if they don't think they're playing.
Yeah, and I think, that July thing is probably still in the cards there for MLB. There's still some hurdles to get over, but I mean, at least now it's just getting a little bit beyond the talking stage. They're actually trying to put some plans together, and I think they've been able to, they're watching what's going on in Europe, and they watched what happened in Germany last week at the Bundesliga, the soccer games, which played a full weekend of game. I mean, it looked like normal games. Now, it was the acoustics and all were odd, and especially some of the stadiums, they piped crowd sound in, and they had the public address announcer yelling, and they had the crowd chants and the songs all over the PA system. So it made for an interesting, dynamic watching the games. But they came off, and the games were fine. So I think they're taking a little cue from Europe there, seeing how it can be done, and it just takes some getting used to without fans in the stands, but they do up the atmosphere a little bit, at least with the sound. So it's interesting.
Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, and tell our listeners how they can get more information about you and the Goal Sheet.
Thanks, Brett. Check us out on goldsheet.com. Whenever they got games, we'll put some picks up there. Now, I will have some picks on German soccer in case you're interested in that, and that'll be up. Vegas Insider will have those picks this weekend. And we'll have some stuff up soon at goldsheet.com.
Thank you very much, Bruce. We'll visit again next Friday. Have a great one.
You have a good weekend, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you very much. Bruce Marshall with us every Friday from the Goal Sheet. And look, I know everybody's thinking about having that perfect perfect celebration this weekend if you're getting together. Be conscious of all the things we have to do, but you're going to have some great food, and I know where to get it. Either commissary, the new Collierville commissary at Houston Levee and Poplar, or the original in Germantown. Memphis-style barbecue and ribs, delicious and authentic, then screams Memphis-style great food. Begin that barbecue feast with some great appetizers like the cheese plate or the tamales. You're going to watch that golf on Sunday afternoon, have the barbecue nachos handy. The smoked chicken wings are fantastic. Having people over, have the ribs. Dig into the ribs with the barbecue shoulder, get it chopped or pulled on a sandwich, a big sandwich, or you can get it on a plate. It comes with beans, slaw, deviled eggs, and bread as well. You can even order it by the pound, or a 6-pack, or an 8-pack, or a 12-pack, and we often give away 6 packs of barbecue from the Germantown or Collierville commissary on this show. The salads are great, and the best desserts anywhere. The best lemon ice box pie I've ever had in my life. Very, very fresh. Everything fresh. Terrific banana pudding as well. 901-754-5540. 754-5540 online at commissarybarbecue.com in Collierville and Germantown. And now the party areas, you can get back out there. Everything safe, everything contactless, everything with the customer in mind. And Walker Taylor has pulled off the yeoman's effort to stay fighting during this time, and he's done it for his great customers and for his own employees, and we appreciate it. Walker has done it the right way at the Collierville and Germantown commissary. We round out hour number 1. That's up next on Sportstime.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with the Skin Clinics, and we're pleased to announce that we will begin seeing clients for aesthetic services on June 1st. So call 901-345-7546. Again, that's 901-345-SKIN to make your appointment for a facial, brow service, lash service, or any other aesthetic services that you've been waiting for. We will be following all necessary protocols to keep everyone healthy and safe. Our esthetician will be using masks, face shields, and gloves. And we ask that you call us when you arrive and stay in your car. We'll notify you when your room is ready. Of course, we'll do a temperature check and you'll be given a mask when you enter the building. We appreciate your cooperation and we're happy to get back to serving you safely. Remember, beautiful skin is just a phone call away. 901-345-SKIN. That's 901-345-7546. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Farmers Insurance knows that when you're in the car and that song comes on, yes, that's the one, you have no choice but to pull out your imaginary drumsticks and smash those cymbals and stomp on that kick pedal, which unfortunately is the accelerator pedal. And we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent who knows a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
Family Leisure's here to make staying at home more enjoyable for you and your family this summer. Complete pool packages starting at $15.99. 24-foot pools only $19.99. 4-person spas starting at $19.99. Swim spas starting at under $10,000. We are offering contactless purchasing, deliveries, and curbside pickup. Give us a call to schedule an appointment or to place an order. Stay safe with Family Leisure.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
What I'm saying is, this is the anthem. Throw all your hands up. Y'all got to feel me. Sing if you're with me. Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. Drew Barrett with me today. Dave will be back on Tuesday. We'll be out on Monday with the commemoration of Memorial Day. Drew, I talked about yesterday, and not overly, just that it has been a disruption, and I sure have missed it. And we're going to get in about an hour to what we've missed the most. But I talked about the April days were kind of my down days. You know, it hit in March. And I don't know if we were running off adrenaline or what we were running off in March, but it had just hit us with the unknown. But April set in, and that's when I said I would say college football would parallel whatever type of school we have. No school, no college football. Limited school, limited college football. Full school, full college football. It looks like we're going to try for that. What's been your down days? I know when we didn't go to St. Louis to see your beloved O's, and my Cards were rough on both of us, but sports-wise, of course, bear in mind, everybody, the down days are watching that tote board of fatalities and people ill. Bear in mind, we know that.
Yes, we do. I would say my down days really started to hit about mid-April when I came to full grips that this isn't going to be a 2 to 4 week situation. This isn't something we're going to be able to just turn around and deal with. We're going to have to be in it for the long haul here, and it's going to take a lot of time. That's kind of when it really started to hit me. I'd say probably about a month after the Rudy Gobert, obviously missing that trip to St. Louis, which will be on my list in an hour. But that's when it truly hit me that I've never gone a month without sports, and especially in my adult life, I don't know if I've ever gone a month without going to a sporting event.
Yeah, and we're all very much, a hostage to the routine. I love the routine. I like knowing, I like some certitude about me. And it's one thing during all other things in the United States, whether it was political strife or assassinations or war or the horror of 9/11, we could escape to sports. Okay, for a few hours, I'm going to get my mind off of everything that's going on. And formative years for me were the assassinations of Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, just years after President Kennedy was killed, and Vietnam War always there. But, I was a little guy, so I wasn't, that hamstrung by it. But you could always get to sports, whether you were this one. You couldn't. And at first, I would say Rudy Gobert night, I thought, all right, it's going to knock out the NCAA tournament. We'll be back in time for a later baseball start instead of 26th of March, maybe 20th of April, and then quickly realized that it would be June or July. I really thought this weekend was going to be the restart of NBA and baseball, and it's going to be about another month.
Yeah, it is. And
or so.
You're exactly right. When all these other tragedies have hit our great nation, we've had something to turn to as an escape towards it. And going back to your 9/11 thing and going back to sports, I remember in high school I wrote a paper and I compared – I can't remember what the paper was on or about, and I compared country or nation coming back together like we did with the World Series with the Yankees and the Arizona Diamondbacks that year. And my teacher wrote on that paper that I was overdramatic. Well, I don't think that I was very overdramatic about it, because sports just does that, and you're definitely seeing that nowadays, that what the power of sports has on a community and a country to bring you through the tough times, to give you an escape from it.
Speaking of hard grading, you want to call them out?
No, I don't want to call her out.
She probably should.
She wasn't much of a sports person. I don't know if she knew football or basketball, so I won't call her out about it.
And when we get started back in some full-throated manner, if we do this year, don't you think around stadiums, ballparks, arenas, a little bit after, like when the hostages returned from Iran, lifetime baseball passes, shouldn't those people be very celebrated?
They definitely should. And when all of this is over and we're able to congregate at games, whether that's back at FedEx Forum or inside Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium or down with you at Vaught Hemingway, I don't know if I'll ever truly appreciate a handshake any more than I will that first one back at a sporting event. Just being able to appreciate the human contact of a handshake.
Sooner or later on handshaking?
I say sooner. I'm going to say sooner.
Really? Good.
Yeah. Well,
good.
To confess, I still have somewhat shooken hands just because I just don't even think about it. It's just a natural thing to do, and then I think about it. So
2 for me. Two for me since March 13th. A good friend of mine that I saw again today, and I said, we can't shake hands this time. And almost just reflexively a few weeks ago, only 2 for me, and that's got to be some kind of record too. And I don't know if handshaking is dead, but I think more later than sooner. But I hope
I'm going to be optimistic.
Sooner. Yeah,
I've been shaking hands. I have, but I've been keeping my.
You have, Carl?
Yes, but I've been keeping my hand sanitizers. If I touch anything, I'm hand sanitizing right on out. Anything I touch.
And now we see that CDC says that that surfaces aren't that dangerous. And everybody has just double cleaned everything. So
I've been opening doors with my elbows for no reason.
Yeah, and anytime I have a piece of paper in my hand, I've been opening it that way, and they're now saying that. But it shows that the medical community, they've been all over the place because it has really been hard to figure for everyone. We went from don't wear a mask to wear a mask, to the surfaces clean and scour them now. Not that big a deal. It's how we have had to work through a lot of things with this. We have worked through this first hour. Starting hour number 2, it'll be Pat Smith from Jocks down in Birmingham. That's next on Sportstime.
Whether you're working remotely, taking web classes, binge-watching TV, or gaming, Dell is here to help you find the right tech. From XPS and Alienware computers that are redefining what's possible with 10th Gen Intel Core processors to the latest top brand electronics, our seamless tech solutions will help keep you connected. Plus, get free shipping. Call us today at 800-BY-DELL. That's 800-BY-DELL.
Attention doctors, nurses, law enforcement, firefighters, and EMT personnel. Infinity of Memphis wants to show their gratitude for what you've done and for what you do for our community. Right now, you can get your personal vehicle a mobile super synthetic or Mobile One oil and filter change for half price. That's only $32.50 or $49.99 respectively. Infinity of Memphis will also wash your car for free. Visit infinityofmemphis.com now to schedule your service. ID is required. Central Barbecue is committed to the health and safety of this community, who has supported Central for almost 20 years. Central Barbecue is still open for business with to-go and delivery options to serve the greater Memphis area with the same great barbecue you have come to know and love. With 4 locations to serve you, from downtown, Midtown, and East Memphis, you can order your favorite barbecue and enjoy everything on the menu in the comfort of your own home. Call your nearest Central Barbecue location for more information on delivery and to-go options today.
Hi, this is Rob Brown. Join Pete Cordelli and me Saturdays 8 to 9 a.m. for Sidelines here on Sports 56 WHBQ, 87.7 FM and 96.1. We'll cover the Memphis Tigers, the SEC, and your favorite team. Give us a call. That's Sidelines, Saturday mornings 8 to 9 a.m. Sidelines is presented by Duncan Williams Asset Management. So get up and give us a call.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Dave's away today. Drew Barrett co-hosting with me. And we're with you until 6 o'clock. Watch the weather out there as it is rolling through my house on its way to Memphis. Carl Morris producing for us. And, Carl, we appreciate you so very much. This day, May 22nd, 2020, 11th weekend we head into without sports, but it is getting closer with the SEC making its move today. I thought the vote was mostly ceremonial, 14-0 unanimity from the SEC chancellor, president's level, ADs in consultation with the commissioner, Greg Sankey. The Big Ten moving faster. Even better news out of Larry Scott in the Pac-12. That's a good sign. If they can play, anybody can play. To talk about that, college football and the restart in college football with us, Pat Smith. Pat Smith Radio, on Twitter at Pat Smith Radio, and he is from WJOX in Birmingham, and he joins us now. Pat, the sad old days of April are giving hope as this late May approaches and the 1st of June approaches. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Happy to be along with you guys this afternoon. Yeah, it was a great moment here in Birmingham when the announcement came out a little bit after noon that we perhaps, just maybe, we see light at the end of the tunnel and we might get football.
And that's what we want to see under all the necessary standards, though, Pat. I don't want anybody in peril. I sure don't want somebody's 20-year-old in peril. And I don't want a 40-year-old fan if we have fans, or a 60-year-old fan, or one particular 57-year-old fan. I don't want anybody jeopardized by anything. And I know Greg Sankey, every single comment, it is with the participation and the approval of medical professionals.
Absolutely. And you just mentioned it in the open starting this hour in regards to they wanted a unanimous vote today. I was told just a couple of days ago that they actually did not have that, Brett. A couple of schools were still dragging their feet a little bit because they had not been as comfortable as the other schools in the conference. And, of course, after a couple of days of discussions and further advice from medical professionals, those other schools finally decided that they would come along with the rest of the conference. And I know that as of this hour, there's still a couple schools that have not announced that guys will be coming back on June the 8th. And those schools, like a Kentucky, and I'm not sure, I know they're in your backyard of Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Not really sure if I've seen anything from them. But I think it's a great sign that we're on the right path. And let's just all cross our fingers and hope that the medical professionals and things that we have done to distance ourselves has paid off to the fact that maybe, just maybe, we won't have that second spike that so many people have been worried about.
Yeah, Pat, hopefully we don't have that second spike, but with the all the testing that the SEC schools and all NCAA institutions are going to have to do, those tests aren't going to be cheap. And throughout the last couple of weeks, all we've heard is how there's no more money. We have to play. How are the schools and universities going to pay to test everybody, to test thousands of people every day?
No, that's a great point, Drew. And you know, when you look at some of the plans, you know, Jim Sturk, the athletic director at the University of Missouri, you know, he basically said that their medical professionals, they were telling him that these tests would go about $65 per test. Well, just think of the number of people that you're possibly having to test on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden you look at all these athletic department budgets that have been cut in certain programs. You know, they've eliminated sports just so that they can offset the departure of those huge paychecks that they typically get this time of the year at these spring meetings. That's something that's going to have to be worked out. I think today was an important facet to us getting back to a little bit of normalcy in college athletics. But that is going to be the next stage, which is how are we going to pay for all these safeguards that we're talking about so that we can make sure that these young people are taken care of along with the staff members that are coaching them.
And, Pat, the editorial comment here from me, and I hit on it earlier in my top story of the day, the Syracuse University report, nothing to do with athletics, but just from a report from them, and it was printed and referred to by ESPN.com. I don't know if I'll go so far and be this haughty and say sinful, but at least slothful. Two universities out of 130 in FBS are self-sustaining, Texas A&M and Georgia, even in good times, to spend like that. Maybe we'll learn going forward.
There's no question about that. I think what you are seeing right now, and some people will tell you it's an overdue reckoning when it comes to these budgetary situations with schools where you're sometimes paying off $40 to $50 million just to get rid of a football coach and then to bring in a completely new staff. I mean, it's just staggering some of the numbers that you're seeing from universities across the country that spend in athletics. And with a situation like COVID-19 and with the shutdown and no NCAA basketball tournament and the thought of losing college football, that's a $4 billion with a B, $4 billion industry. You read the story yesterday from ESPN.com saying without college football, I mean, you're looking at devastation across all sorts of sports, not just college football, if that doesn't take place. So some folks will be like, well, this is something good that will come out of this, is that schools will will perhaps be a little bit more fiscally responsible when it comes to their athletic programs and the amount of money that they're paying some of these people.
Obviously, other than a few SEC schools and maybe some Big 12 schools, football and basketball are your money sports. Now with SEC and Big 12 and some Pac-12, I guess, too, baseball would be lumped in there. But for schools like East Carolina, Cincinnati, to name a few that had to cancel sports, what are they doing with those student athletes? I mean, those athletes signed to get an education and be there for 4 years. Are the universities going to honor that agreement that they made on the front end before all this?
Well, I can tell you this, and obviously we know a little bit about how some of this works in Birmingham, because a few years ago, the University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, they canceled their football program, and they also got rid of a couple other ancillary programs. I think it was the rifle team, and something else got withdrawn. I think it was synchronized swimming. I know that those persons were eligible to stay on campus and to complete their degree if they so desired. And so many of those people decided to transfer immediately and become eligible at other schools, while others decided that they wanted to get their degree from UAB and they stayed put. I believe in the East Carolina situation, if I read correctly, Brett, they're going to save around $4.5 to $5 million by getting rid of the programs that they announced yesterday. And overall, long term, they believe that it could potentially add another $6 million back to their bottom line. And I think all of those persons are going to be eligible to stay on campus. So that is the good news, is I believe they're going to give them every opportunity to finish what they started there. But if you're looking at some type of career moving forward in that sport, then you're obviously going to have to get in the transfer portal and go somewhere.
And we saw it with Texas basketball. Most years, Shaka Smart would have been out after this year, or he would have had a pretty good Big 12 tournament run and maybe made a little bit of noise, won a game in the NCAA tournament, but they kept him. And when Texas is looking at budgetary matters, it's very serious. And the buyouts are the thing, and the falling out of favor so quickly with them. And Florida has really kind of led the SEC in that. They have paid out the coaching money.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And matter of fact, Bruce Feldman from The Athletic and Fox Sports, I had a conversation with him earlier this week, and we brought up this same discussion, Brett, and we started talking about USC. We're talking about Clay Helton, whether, some of these guys that are on the hot seat, are they going to get a pass this year? Because of the fact that there's going to be this budget shortfall, things of that nature. And he said there's no question. And he said that a school like USC, the numbers that I mentioned a few minutes ago, about $40 to $50 million, that's what USC was looking at if they were going to get rid of Clay Helton last year, pay him off, pay the staff under Clay Helton off, and then have to pay somebody else's buyout from another school to get them to come, and then get a whole new administration under that new head coach. It was going to be a $40 to $50 million investment for USC. They decided to keep, obviously, Clay Helton for this upcoming season, and perhaps even another season, just because of the shortfall that they're all going to experience now. They're just not going to be able to pay off these ridiculous buyouts that guys like Jimmy Sexton have been able to negotiate.
Yeah, and that's been the marketplace that he has been out there in, and I want to be transparent. Look at this week, everybody in the Ole Miss world, we are so excited about the 2025 and 2026 contractual agreement with USC to play in football. Absolutely. Well, that would be Lane Kiffin's 6th year. The last Ole Miss coach to make it to year 6, and he was out after that year, was David Cutcliffe. Now, one thing that doesn't cost Ole Miss as much as some other places is the max, because of the state law is 4 years, but it's still been a lot of upheaval and hirings and firings and paying off coaches that aren't working.
Absolutely. Now, as a matter of fact, the running joke in the state of Alabama, at one point in time, you had Wayne Hall, you had Terry Bowden, you had almost everybody that used to coach down at Auburn. They were on some type of pay scale.
Brother Oliver.
Absolutely. I mean, for years and years, once Bobby Louder decided that he was done with them and moved on to the next group of coaches at Auburn, those guys were still under payroll, or they were on the Colonial Bank Board of Directors or something like that. for many years to come after that. So, again, I go back to what I said before. There's going to be so many things that we're going to see come out of this. And I think it's partly going to be these budgetary issues. They're going to come to a head with many schools. And that's why one topic that we discussed a lot on WJOX here in Birmingham is just the future in regards to the Power Five. The 67 schools, including Notre Dame, that is considered part of that Power Five. Is this the point in time where you're going to see potentially those guys move away and you're not going to have, the MAC or the AAC or the Sun Belt or the Conference USAs? Are they going to be a part of the mix anymore? I think that is something that we all need to take a really hard look at, because I think that is the future of college football.
Obviously, sitting here in Memphis, Tennessee, hope that the AAC, or at least some of its institutions, will be a part of that vision going forward in college football. But as far as, say we do start everything on time and we're able to have a percentage amount of fans in these stadiums around the country for college football, have you heard anything about allowing visiting fans from out of state, fans from other teams? Are they going to be allowed to cross state borders to go to away games?
That's an excellent question. And matter of fact, today, minutes before this decision came down, Ross Bjork, the AD, of course, Brett, you know Ross very well. He was on our program on WJOX, and we asked him that question about, what happens if you're limited to only 20 to 25,000 people in your stadium. And of course, they're in Aggie land. They've got a nice sized stadium of 100,000
110.
plus.
Yeah.
And so, he says that we feel like we're in a really good position to where if we can only have 20 to 25,000 people in the stadium, we feel that we're going to be able to absolutely spread people out, whatever the CDC, whatever the health officials tell us need to be done. But then we asked them the question, well, what happens to that big donor? Like, all of a sudden, how do you, if you've got 50,000 season ticket holders, how in the world do you keep Big Billy Bob, the old guy who is, gives millions of dollars to your school? Is he going to take precedence over this guy or that guy or a family that's had tickets for 50 years? It's a whole different situation they're going to have to deal with. And Ross was very honest. He said, guys, hopefully today's announcement by the SEC is going to be step one, and we have not even begun to look at those type of situations. I would think that you would allow some form of travel party to be a part of that mix, whatever number they come up with, that would be the safest. But that's just, again, as Commissioner Signee has said many times during this pandemic, we're crossing the bridge and building it at the same time. So it's all of us are having to kind of figure it out as we go along.
We could see, and Drew is very good friends with and does a Sunday night Tigers show with a friend of all of ours, John Stacy. What is John Stacy's games attended streak at right now, Drew?
I believe he's somewhere around 112 or 115.
All right, and on our crew at Ole Miss, Glenn Waddle, he's public address announcer at Vaught Hemingway, and for road games, he's on our stats crew. He's over 500. There's going to be some epic streaks broken this year in college football. And look, everybody's going to pay a price, but there are going to be some streaks broken. All right, as if y'all didn't already get me in enough trouble with me being with the transparency. Well, I got myself in trouble on that, but I'm going to double down on the transparency about Ole Miss and too many hirings and firings, and I think one of the dumber decisions ever was back to firing David Cutcliffe. Then you mentioned Ross Bjork, and yes, I do like Ross and Sonia and that family very much. I'm going to get in even more trouble with Ole Miss people by bringing up one of their least favorite names. Going forward, I want the Jackie Sherrill plan. 16, five conference, conferences, 16 teams in it, the 80 plan. And the Tigers would be in 80. I don't know what number they would be in, but they would be in 80.
Yeah, and the Pac-12 always wants to point their fingers here. David Shaw, he did an interview, I believe, yesterday on ESPN Radio, and he took an indirect shot at the SEC about, they play that lettuce game at the end of the season where they play a 1AA opponent, because the mighty Pac-12, they don't, they just play Division I schools. They're not going to sink to the level of as us Southern football guys do, in scheduling and stuff. But my point being, at the end of the day, it's going to come to a head to where those 80 schools, as you mentioned, as Jackie Sherrill has a plan for, that's how you could figure it out to where you could have these non-conference games. Because without the MAC or without the Mountain West or Conference USA or the Sun Belt, you would have to go to the 1AA level, the FCS schools and play all the time as opposed to that. So I'm like you, Brett. I'm all for the Jackie Sherrill plan. I think you could get the most solvent 80 competitive football programs, and you could come up with enough to have the schedule. You could play your 12 games, and you would have quality opponents. Even if the SEC were to add one more conference game, you still would have that room to be able to go schedule the Cincinnatis, the Memphises, the UABs, and people like that.
And to expand on the Jackie Sherrill plan of the 80 teams, could it be a situation where we kick some Power 5 schools out to create a little bit more room for the Memphises, Cincinnati, Central Floridas, and Houstons of the world? Can we please get Rutgers out of Power 5 football? I mean, it does nothing.
Well, no, listen, I agree with that. But unfortunately, I go back to those checks that a lot of these conferences write out. And think about it. We would be at the Hoover Met here in Birmingham at the SEC baseball tournament. And then on Tuesday, historically, it is the SEC spring meetings in Destin, when on Friday, the big check is divvied up to the schools. That's where you're going to see the Rutgers and people like that. They're not going to be kicked out of any of these conferences because financially and because of the television markets and the reason why they're in the conference to begin with, they're never going to turn their back on those type people. They're not going to give up the New York, New Jersey television market and perhaps, kick, Rutgers out of the Big Ten. It's a weird fit. I agree. But I think when it's all said and done, the current teams that you see in the Power 5, they will not go anywhere.
Pat, I really believe in we're very optimistic here about the restarts around sports, even the NHL. I'm glad what NASCAR, how they've kind of plowed the way, and we're very optimistic about the restarts. And I think a renaissance, a sports boom will occur with people so very hungry for it. But with that, opening afternoon, opening night, Bama play USC in Arlington.
Ooh, wow. I will tell you this. If you were to ask me a week ago, I probably would have said no. Matter of fact, I've been told that TCU is in the wings, ready to take over and play Bama if something happens with USC. But all indications from Greg Byrne in Alabama and some of the people that I know down in Tuscaloosa, they've told me that USC, that they're very positive that this game is going to go off and they're going to be a part of that. And based on what I've seen this last week and next week, the Pac-12, they're going to be voting on how they can get their league started back. Unless we see that second spot, guys, I really do believe that we're going to do everything we can to have a normal football season in regards to on the field. You might only have 10, 15, 20,000 people in the stands, but it will be a great sight to see kickoff in Arlington between the Trojans and the Tide.
And sadly, what it would do to everything, a dreaded second wave, second spike, if we had that really hit at any time, even this winter, Pat, it'll be almost unimaginable. But I want to end on a happy note. I want to wish you a great weekend. Thank you for your time. You're right. We normally would be getting big news out of the SEC. We might even get a little TV news next week. You got the Ole Miss Baylor news on Sunday night, September 6th of Labor Day weekend. I'm told that will happen at NRG Stadium. You can get ready for it. So we want to be positive, and we appreciate your time, Pat. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Now if we can just get the baseball owners and players on the same page and get some Cardinal baseball, Brett, we'll be in great shape.
We'll be getting closer and closer. I hope it doesn't end up like 81 where we have the best record and don't make the playoffs. I still hadn't figured that out.
No, me neither. Guys, you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you, Pat. Pat Smith with us from WJOX down in Birmingham, the sports giant down in Birmingham and Sports Talk Radio. And Drew, we are more hopeful. And out of this, the golden era of sports, I think, will start and the leadership provided by Dr. Rudd and Laird Veach has positioned the Tigers facility-wise and, most importantly, W's, left-hand column, and Ryan Silverfield will keep that going. I think however it's refashioned and packaged, the Tigers will be in the mix.
I think they will. And, with the new football practice facility almost complete, you now have the Tigers there in facilities, no more of the Tommy West stories of recruits where they just stick a tractor out in the field and say, yeah, our new practice facility is going up here in the next year or two.
Coming soon.
Yeah, it'll be here before you graduate, and obviously that was never the plan, so we don't have to deal with that anymore. We've got the money, we've got the W's, and you're right, without the W's in the left-hand column, the practice facility doesn't go up, the money doesn't go up, our overall attendance doesn't go up. It's got to start with the coach and those players on the field to put you in the situation that we are. And real quick, I actually undersold John Stacy. He texted me. He's at 117.
117, yes. Very. That is impressive, and I hope it keeps going. And this year, what is the big travel challenge for him? He's made Annapolis look like going around over to the next neighborhood. That's easy on him.
He's driven all the way out to UCLA, so I think this year will probably
all downhill after that.
Pretty easy. I hope they do allow visiting fans because I like to try to go to at least one road game a year, and this year is going to be Purdue. I was going to get to go see where Drew Brees played college football.
Yeah, and that will be week 2 for the Tigers. That will be the Southern Heritage Classic weekend at AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and I hope for everybody that it all is able to go off in some fashion. And if we could just really get lucky and very, very hopeful, it go off in the way we've always had it. But the Tigers winning was right. The Tommy West on the way out press conference, every utterance was true, and they acted on it. Except for the head coach that replaced him, but mostly in the facilities commitment, they acted on it after Tommy went out blazing.
Yeah, Tommy, they followed what he said word for word, and it all started with President Rudd and Tom Bowen. Nothing against Shirley Raines and R.C. Johnson, but they would have been just fine if football had died. They would have been just fine thinking they're going to make plenty of money off the Tiger basketball and off John Calipari, and that it'll never end. It'll only keep getting bigger and bigger. Why do we need to keep wasting money into football? And then Tommy West put him on fire. He told him this is what you're going to have to do if you ever want a shot at being at the big boys table. And Tom Bowen and President Rudd recognized that, saw that, and knew exactly what they had to do. And while football is not everything that a university does or is about, it helps everything from other sports to academics as well. So a good football program normally means a good academic school because there's more money, there's more donations there.
It just goes hand in glove. It's moth to light. It's 1 + 1. It is very simple, and they recognize it. And Drew, I promise you, I would always resist that drop football or minimize football or don't worry about football. I would always fight that, and I'll remember the day after the Tommy West sermon, I defended that. Some were not, don't need the guy on the way out, telling us what to do. I defended it, and I said, and it was not popular. I said, don't go buy a blocking sled and think that's a commitment to football because it's not. So John Stacy's a road warrior on every trip. So is our guy Glenn Waddle at Ole Miss. Over 500. He's around 521 or so. He's a road warrior. Drove to Fresno. He drove to Berkeley. And the other day I texted him. I said, "You ready for your drive to Los Angeles?" And he texted back. He said, "I'm all ready."
Yeah, John Taus texted me back. He said the toughest will be back-to-back weeks in Texas. So that's going to be probably his hardest stretch of the season.
Well, go and stay. All that money he's making on the advertising side on the Blue and Gray show, just go down there and stay for 2 weeks, John. You can do that. This portion of our show brought to you in part by Jason's Deli. And look, commemoration of Memorial Weekend this weekend, and they want to honor and salute all the families that have had to pay that ultimate price for a military member lost, and they appreciate everybody being so very patient with them during this time. But they're back open like everywhere, very safe, very clean, very sanitized. It always was, but it's even more so now. But it always was. All the great locations like Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, and Cordova. It's healthy food, first franchise in the nation to be trans fat free. In Jason's Deli, it's all about choice, regardless if you seek a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals, or if you'd like to invent your sandwich via the build your own selection, you'll be delighted at Jason's Deli. Had to tamp down the salad bar for now, but it'll be back, and it'll be back safe and bigger and better than ever. But plenty of organic food to choose from, and all the 4 locations, and the catering anytime, anywhere. Check them out online as well at jasonsdeli.com. All the salads, all the meats, all the cheeses, all the breads, all the spreads, and that great hospitality that you've always gotten at Jason's Deli. And they say thank you to people that have stuck it out with them, and we say thank you to Jason's Deli for sticking it out with us. It's wholesome food forever. It's a family thing at Jason's Deli. When we come back, we will visit with John Varlas from the Daily Memphian. He's next on Sportstime.
6 mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7 FM.
The folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai want to say thank you. Thank you, Memphis, for another spectacular year. They set records, but I can understand why. You think about the product. Where else do you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty? That's what you get on every new car at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Oh, and thank you again for the 11th straight year, the #1 certified pre-owned car dealership in all of Memphis. It starts with that product, but then it goes to the shopper assurance. Where else do you go where you get transparent pricing, flexible test drive, take the car for a couple of days if you want, streamlined buying process? You're not going to be there all day, in and out. And then, and I have not seen this anywhere else, the 3-day worry-free exchange. You buy a new car, if you've got any buyer's remorse, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Just get on Lamar, take it into Mississippi, the first exit's Craft Road, turn left, and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
It's becoming a new habit since I got my RecTech grill. Picking up my smartphone, opening the app, and controlling my RecTech grill remotely from anywhere. You'll like the habit too. Cooking and smoking at the touch of your finger with a grill that uses 100% real wood. So simple, really cool because it does most of the work on its own without me. Just a few reasons why I love my RecTech grill. Built like a tank, 80 pounds heavier than the leading competitors. We've all been spending more quality time with family. Why not invest in something that is great for them and great for you? It is a game changer. Summer's here. Great times around the grill. Why not get yourself a RecTech grill? RecTech, far and away, the best bang for your buck. RecTech, built by grillers for grillers. Go to their website at rectechgrills.com. That's RECTEC Grills with an S.com.
Hey everybody, our friends at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch say congrats to the high school and college class of 2020. And it's a great time to help your grad get a new or pre-owned Chevy. And if you're ready to get that new Suburban, Tahoe, Silverado, Blazer, or even pre-order one of those hot new Corvettes, All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch is where you want to be. Because the people at All-Star Chevy make it fun, easy, and safe, whatever makes you comfortable. They'll even bring any All-Star Chevy car, truck, or SUV to you. And you'll pay a lot less than at those city dealers. GM's financing means no payments for 4 months and 0 interest for 84 months. That's on any new Equinox or Silverado. Thousands in cash back with Blazers, Silverados, and more. And everybody at All-Star Chevy has one job: to make sure you get a better deal, have more fun, and in record time. And all sanitized and safe for you. They'll even pick up and deliver for maintenance and service. Remember, it's not the Pike, not South Haven, not Mount Moriah or Collierville. It's gotta be Olive Branch, people. So find new roads to All-Star Chevrolet today or go to allstarautogroup.com.
Hey, sports fans, you already know the Butcher Shop has been a great Memphis tradition since 1981, and it still is. The Butcher Shop is absolutely open for your takeout with curbside pickup or Grubhub delivery because the Butcher Shop is still serving your favorite steaks, fish, and seafood. But now you can also pick them up raw and take them home to cook. You get the highest quality from the Butcher Shop and the comfort of home cooking. All wine and beer selections can be sold and picked up curbside as well. Plus, order curbside and pickup and receive 10% off your food order. And how about Burger Fridays? Treat your company to lunch, and the Butcher Shop will deliver Hamburger Friday any day of the week with all the fixins for just a minimum $250 order. The Butcher Shop is here for you, so don't worry about getting a great meal. The Butcher Shop has cooked or uncooked meals for curbside pickup or Grubhub delivery. Call 757-4244 or online at thebutchershop.com. The Butcher Shop at the Agri Center, Walnut Grove, and Germantown Parkway.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
No Dave today. Drew sitting in for him. Carl Morris producing. Into the weekend, into this Memorial weekend. We're out on Monday. We'll be back with you at 3 on Tuesday, and that's when Dave will return. We visited once during this pandemic with our friend from the Daily Memphian, John Varlas. He is so outstanding, just like he was at the Commercial Appeal forever and now at the Daily Memphian on all things preps. But I like to call him one of the more reasonable voices in the Memphis sports community, and that reasonable voice joins us now. Good afternoon, John Varlas. How are you?
Hi, Brett. How are you, buddy? I am reporting to you live from the parking lot of the Lowe's on Highway 64 so I could pull over and talk to you guys properly. And it is jam-packed with people getting ready for Memorial Day. So it's exciting to see that people are starting to come back to a little bit of normalcy around here.
Uncanny. John Varlas, you're too good. You set right up when we get out today with you. I'm going to have a rapid fire round with you, and Lowe's will come up again. Can you believe that?
Well, very good. And they're not paying me for my door. It could be Home Depot just as well. It suits my needs either way.
That's right. But I think I've got it on my notes. Lowe's for an example. But we appreciate your time. Just tell us where the TSSAA. Where are they? Because I know individual places like CBHS announced that they will start workouts June 1st. Where is it as of the collective with the TSSAA as other states around us are making the baby step pronouncements?
Well, the TSSAA, Brett, their whole thing is to leave everything up to the local school districts. And it's interesting because you look at it, statewide, several districts have already, allowed their kids to go back. For example, Alcoa and Maryville are going to be back as of May 26th. I think some of the areas in West Tennessee, like Union City and Milan and those areas are back. I know Brownsville's going back pretty soon. So it's all they're leaving it all up to the jurisdiction of the local school districts. And what I think you'll see here in Shelby County, I think you'll see the private schools like today CBHS jump out there first. And since they're private, obviously, and they can do what they want in regards to that. The only question is, for me, is when the municipals and when Shelby County schools follow in line. But, the TSSAA's position has always been very clear. The athletic day is part of the school day. So if you have a school day, athletics will follow and that's what we're going to be working towards. Like you said it well, baby steps. I think it's going to come. I think it's just going to take time and a little adjustment, but I am, 100% confident that we're going to get there eventually.
John, not to, make light of everything that's gone on, but, Memphis schools, especially parents of students at Memphis schools, did kind of trend nationally with videos of them spraying their kids down with Lysol when school was officially let out and they went to pick up their kids. Do you think the Shelby County School District has to either all play and none play, or do you think that they'll leave it up to individual schools? So Ridgeway, if you want to play, East High, you don't want to play, that's fine.
No, I think what we're going to see, Drew, is instead of leaving it up to the school, just leaving it up to parents. And I think you might you might have a situation where, some of these parents, for whatever reason, they're just not going to allow their kids to go back to school. And I think what it's going to essentially come down to is a decision, every family makes the decision on their own. And that's what I think we're going to see. No, I can't see a situation where one, SCS school would be allowed to play and another decides not to. I think it's all going to be open, but I think you may see some parents, decide to opt out, and that's, certainly their rights. I don't think anybody can tell
Absolutely.
a parent or a family, what's best for their own family. But yeah, I do think we'll play, and I think everybody's gonna at least have the opportunity to opt in if they so desire, and I feel like most people will. I mean, every day that we get into this, we see more and more data, and more and more more and more studies, more and more anecdotal evidence. It's all pointing in one direction that we're getting close to the end of this deal, and hopefully here in a few weeks it'll even become more apparent that we are, and that we can proceed safely without too much risk and too much scariness.
How early do you think school could start? Because we start fairly early in Memphis Public Schools and Shelby County Schools. We start early in Northwest Mississippi and in Eastern Arkansas as well, and play ball early. John, I'll even say sometimes I think it's too early and too hot, but how early do you think school could start? And then if it does, do you think we'll see a more forward football season? It try to start, say, on Friday night, July 31st, or Friday night, August 7th?
Well, if you do that, Brett, you get into the whole thing with the heat advisory, because as you well know, even at 7:00 on a Friday night on July 31st, you can be well above the allowed heat index, and so that's a problem right there. What I have kind of informally discussed with some of these coaches around here, what I see as maybe a possibility is maybe the season gets pushed back a little bit, actually, so that the calendar is more in line with where it was when you and I grew up. We start football around Labor Day, and then we push the start of basketball season back accordingly, and then push spring sports back accordingly to that. There's a way to make it work. The TSSAA is exploring many options on how to get it all in, and one thing I'll say about the TSSAA too, I know you guys remember, I know you guys know they canceled spring fling this year, which was a really tough decision to cancel the spring sports championships in Murfreesboro, but that was made as a last ditch. They tried everything they could to salvage it. They had plans in place to make it work any way possible, and it just became untenable to do it at all. So, so having said that, the TSSAA's goal is for kids to play. The TSSAA wants kids to play. They want athletics. They want football. They want everything else. And, as much as it's possible to do that, that's what we're going to have, in my opinion.
From the Daily Memphian, he's John Varlas on Twitter at John Varlas, long time with the Commercial Appeal, now with the Daily Memphian, and still just crushing it on all things preps. I like the idea of later, and heaven forbid, John, could we possibly maybe even entertain the thought of cutting out that first weekend of playoffs, and I don't lose my mind when I see in the brackets a team that went 1-8 and they're in the playoffs.
Well, I know that's a bugaboo for a lot of people, Sap, and it is what it is.
I go crazy every year at it.
No, I know, and you know why that is, because they take the top 4 teams from each region, and some of these teams only have 4 or maybe 5 teams. Some of these regions just aren't big enough. But you're right; those games don't help anybody. The teams that the teams that the 1-9 teams know they don't have a chance. I mean, and the host team, the 10-0 team, knows it's going to be a cakewalk. It's not necessarily going to help them. I mean, you're right. There's many things that we could do. We could scale down the playoffs. We could go into a possibility where one thing that a coach mentioned to me is maybe play a football game on a Saturday, or not a Saturday, a Friday, and then maybe you turn around and play another game on a Wednesday in order to get, the entire schedule in. Teams have done that before in the past, and they've proven that they can do it safely. There's lots of ways to do it. The thing is to just get the calendar done in a timely manner at the end of the school year, and I think they can do that. But there's lots of options, and I think creative minds are going to step to the plate and find a way to get this done. Because, like I said a few minutes ago, the aim is to play and give these kids all the opportunities possible to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but obviously Brett likes to complain about the 1-10 teams. I went 2-8 or 3-7 all 4 years of high school and never was able to sniff the playoffs. I don't know who these 2-8 teams apparently are making the playoffs, but it certainly wasn't me, John. With COVID-19 affecting, everybody on the face of the planet, and especially high school sports, what about JV teams or schools that still have freshman teams? Is it going to affect them to where we're so worried about varsity and kind of what happens we lose the JV and the development that the underclassmen get?
No, I think if you have, I think once they decide, Drew, to move forward with the calendar, I think you're going to, see the calendar, as it normally is. Yes, there might be some, at first there might be some restrictions on attendance and things of that nature. But frankly, I mean, let's just be honest here. With a lot of high school sports, things like crowds and things like, crowds and fans and things like that, they're not an issue. I mean, you can golf and volleyball, soccer, these things can pretty much proceed as normal from day one. The issue is with your high school basketball and your high school football when you conceivably have a big crowd, and I think they're going to work through this. But no, once they give the green light, I think you'll see the full slate of everything: JV, freshman teams, middle school, whatever.
One last question before the rapid round begins, John. You tweeted out earlier today. We know the college prospects from high school basketball in this area, but you tweeted out, "Cup runneth over. Big year for football prospects."
Yeah, big year for football prospects. You're right, Brett. The one thing that is really, really cool to see in the years that I've been a reporter and covering preps has been the constant growth and evolution of high school football. We've seen, basketball in Memphis is a big deal. Memphis is a basketball city. It's what everybody says. But my goodness, we are really developing into a good football city for prospects as well. Your Eric Grays, all the kids that signed with Tennessee out of Memphis, Omari Thomas and Jabari Small from Briarcrest, and the linebackers from Whitehaven, Eason and French and McDonald and those guys. I mean, so many talented players, and it's a testament to our high school coaches. It's a testament to the time they're putting in with these kids. It's a testament to the fact that they're going to go the extra mile to drive these kids to camps and help them get exposure and things like that. It's really helped turn Memphis, turn Memphis's high school football fortunes around. It's last 5 or 6, 7 years, it's really taken off, and this year's not going to be any different. And looking forward to the class of 2022 and 2023 and 2024, I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
All right, rapid fire round time. Here we go. You ready?
I am ready, sir.
Name the best high school basketball player and the high school football player you've ever seen in Shelby County.
Oh, okay. Well, the best high school basketball player, that's going to be kind of a cop-out, but I'm going to go with Penny Hardaway. Although high school Tony Delk was pretty fun to watch as well. Football, I tell you what, Stats, there's 3 guys where I was at the game, and every time they had the ball in their hands, people just held their breath, and that's Mark Dotson from Whitehaven, Dylan Mitchell from White Station, and Eric Gray from Tennessee. When those guys had the ball in their hands, man, there was just a sense of anticipation, whether they were going to break it or not.
And Mark Dotson just recruited by everyone, and a real get for Coach Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss. And the day of the big Alabama upset in 2014, People watch that game, go back to the opening kickoff. He should have scored. He got knocked out at about the 35, but set and really kept the momentum of game day in the Grove going right to that first kickoff. All right, you mentioned Lowe's earlier. We won't give them another commercial. I'll change it. If it's safe to go to Fresh Market and shop, why is it unsafe to go to a voting location come November?
Well, Stats, I will paraphrase a line from George Orwell on that. All lines are equal, but some lines are more equal than others. How about that?
That's good. That's good. That is very good. Memphis high school basketball, underrated, overrated, or rated about properly?
I think some years it's a little overrated, but I think in general it's rated properly. We have great coaches here, great players historically. You know, you can always come in here and find a few good players to help your program. So I think it's properly rated. I think coaches and writers and everybody else knows what the talent is like here, and they respect it as a result.
That many people can't be wrong. Same question for football. About right, under, or over?
Oh, vastly underrated.
I agree.
Underrated.
You just said it.
I don't think a lot of I don't think the casual fan recognizes the amount of high school talent we have here. And it's not just the guys that are going to go to Alabama and LSU and places like that. We have those guys, but we've got a host of guys that are great players at Tennessee Martin, Middle Tennessee, that level, and that's
exactly. I got a good friend of mine that's got a son playing at Prairie View and getting a great education and having a great college football experience. All right, will the Tigers win a national championship in basketball in your lifetime?
Oh gosh, well that's gonna. If I'm lucky, that gives me about 20 more years. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. It's just so hard. It's just so hard to win a national championship, and the way things are structured right now, your Kentuckys and your Dukes and your North Carolinas of the world always have a built-in advantage when it comes to recruiting players, and I don't see that changing even when Coach K and Coach Cal and Bill Self and those guys step down. It's just so hard to win a national championship.
The shocking thing is that they haven't won one by now. All right, getaway question. Last thing. Word of the year through May 22nd, 2020. Asymptomatic or normalcy?
Oh, guys, how about social distancing, pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Stats, have you seen that video on YouTube with the COVID-19 horse race? You need to Google that. Yeah. It's
Surreal. Surreal's been out there a lot this year.
Surreal.
John Varlas, thank you, man. We appreciate you, and we'll catch up a bunch. And I bet we catch up before the golf tournament. If not, I hope we get to see you out there and we have some normalcy at the WGC FESJI. Thank you for your time, John.
You too, guys. Have a great weekend. And how about this word for the rest of the year? Football, sports. How about that?
Yes. I vote for it. Thank you, John Varlas. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
We really appreciate it. We round out hour 2. That's next on Sportstime.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Hi, this is John Conway with Conway Services. How old is your water heater? With most of the water heaters in the Mid-South located in the attic, the worst day you can replace your water heater is one day too late. It may be time for a tankless water heater from Conway Services that never runs out of hot water. Plus, these energy-saving models only heat the water you use, saving you money on your gas bill every month. Most 10-year-old water heaters were about 65% efficient when they were new, compared to a tankless water heater from Conway Services is up to 98% efficient. Plus, right now, get your tankless water heater from Conway Services for as low as $79 per month. Or I'll give you $300 for that old tanked water heater. And no more worrying about that tank bursting in your attic either. And with over 8,000 5-star reviews, you know Google guaranteed Conway Services will be providing that award-winning service every time. So call Conway Services, the Mid-South's premier tankless water heater professionals at 384-3511. And the first 30 callers with a 10-year-old water heater will come out and inspect it absolutely free.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
Whether you're working remotely, taking web classes, binge-watching TV, or gaming, Dell is here to help you find the right tech. From XPS and Alienware computers that are redefining what's possible with 10th gen Intel Core processors to the latest top brand electronics, our seamless tech solutions will help keep you connected. Plus, get free shipping. Call us today at 800-BY-DEL. That's 800-BY-DEL.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
If you're going on vacation, making a college campus visit, or if business takes you out of town, there's just no better place to board your dog than Barks and Recreation, 965 Ruddock Cove between Bud Davis Cadillac and the Blue Plate Cafe in East Memphis. Boarding, daycare, grooming, we have the best of everything at Barks. Indoor-outdoor kennels so your family member can go in and out as they please. Indoor and outdoor play areas. 4 walks a day. Group play and individual attention from the best staff in the Mid-South, which includes an overnight staff to ensure the safety and comfort of your pet 24 hours a day. All reasons to choose Barks and Recreation above all other boarding and daycare facilities. BarksDaycare.com or 509-0909. Check us out and make your reservations now at BarksDaycare.com. If your dog could speak, he'd say Barks.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
On your list of the 5 things you've missed the most during the shutdown from the virus, from Rudy Gobert night to right now, your 5 things you've missed the most.
Starting, I guess it doesn't really matter what order. They're all equal to me. I did clump together these 2. I missed my silly little brackets and checking box scores.
I do miss box scores. I don't know if it's in my top 5, but I do miss that. And I miss the bracket, too.
Yeah, I missed my silly little bracket that I had no chance of winning at because I never win it. I did win a few years ago, but that's like 1 in 25. Number 4, going to AutoZone Park for 901 FC and Redbirds games. Number 3, broadcasting for Memphis softball, who was having a great season. They were killing it with the 3 back-to-back-to-back weekends out there at the South Campus. I think only
and a great opportunity for you that you were excelling at it, and you they can't get it back, and you can't get it back.
Yeah, I can. I do miss doing games over there with Tyler Springs and Jeff Bright. Well, number 2, Grizzlies playoff fever, returning to FedEx Forum. We were right there, just right there, ready to get it back, and ultimately missed out. And the number 1 thing that I'm sad that I've missed out on was obviously spending a weekend in St. Louis for the Orioles and Cardinals games.
That was a toughie. April was tough on me. Most of mine really are April centered. One's fanned out, or really 2's fanned out over time. For me, it's just purely personal, purely selfish. I missed the Ole Miss spring festivities, not necessarily the spring football game, but the Chucky Mullins banquet, and that was going to be the baseball weekend of Vanderbilt against Ole Miss, and that could have been a precursor. Big. Yeah, that could have been a precursor to a Sunday afternoon final like it was last year in the SEC tournament. Could have been again this year, and could have been a taste of Omaha for both of those teams, especially for Vandy going back to back. But I really missed that weekend a lot. It hurt. That weekend got to me. The weekend right, the next weekend after that, going to and then watching the Masters. It was crushing. And that's when it really hit me the afternoon of the Masters pulling the plug, because if they could have come up with a formula to have a biosphere on Neptune, the Masters, that membership would have. It was too big for them. 3 Cardinals both going, and the day in, day out of following my team. I was going to go again in about 2 weeks, first week of June, for the Blue Jay series. I have missed the Thursday through Sunday of the PGA Tour, not just the Masters, but Sunday afternoon, having that there with baseball on, laptop open, box scores going, NBA playoff games going. I've missed the PGA Tour. And 5th, for me, going to Redbirds games, going to AutoZone Park and missing those games, and they're not going to play a pitch this year.
No, and it's very unfortunate. Like I said before, I honestly don't know if I've ever gone a single month without going to a live sporting event. Probably the longest stretch I've had in the last 5-6 years is only about 2 weeks, because there's always something going on, especially here in the city of Memphis. And it's just been really hard trying to find things to fill my time with. I mean, especially weekend stuff. I've told you I started a garden. I've started building stuff. Just trying to do something.
A garden?
Real quick before we have to get out. Do you really believe it was going to be playoff fever for the Grizzlies? Because Ja and Jaren really had not created Ja and Jaren mania through most of the year at lightly attended games. You think we would have had playoff fever?
I think we would have had playoff
I do
fever,
too.
especially with the Lakers coming in.
Yeah, and the Lakers would have helped increase that fever. Can we mention fever ever again with what we've been on through and all the temperature checks? 1 hour to go. We start that final hour talking NBA with Andy Schiffman. He's next on Sportstime.
Golfers, our tee times, fairways, and greens are on the horizon. Until then, your friends at Edwin Watts Golf Shops encourage you to stay safe, practice social distancing, and wash your hands. Our plan is to reopen based off state and federal guidelines. During the interruption, our online store remains open at worldwidegolfshops.com. Thank you for your patience and understanding, and most of all, for being a part of our amazing golf community. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we look forward to serving you soon.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Fiveash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
This is the sound of Jeff's first ever low and slow Applewood smoked pork shoulder. And this...
Yes.
is the sound he made when it fell right off the bone. Yeah, are you okay there, Jeff?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Backyard grilling leaves the best marks. Kingsford. For recipes and inspiration, visit kingsford.com.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sportstime on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sportstime is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Dave out today, Drew in. Carl Morse doing a great job producing. Andy Schiffman, our NBA analyst. He's Executive Vice President of Basketball Representation for Priority Sports and Entertainment in Chicago, native Memphian, back home during the pandemic. He's going to be back to work soon, and we're going to talk NBA with him and its return after I tell you about the title sponsor of this hour, and that's DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road, 662-890-7184. Go online and check out all the very pleased referrals at DeSotoAutoSales.com. Proud to serve DeSoto County and the surrounding area. All the cars at DeSoto Auto Sales test driven, checked out bumper to bumper, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll go out and find what you want just for you. No shortcuts taken at DeSoto Auto Sales. You're treated like family by kind, courteous employees, laid back down home atmosphere, no high pressure sales, but they care about your time and want you to enjoy the ultimate car experience. They know we're living in a world today that time matters, and that's why you can walk in, find the car you want, test drive it within 45 minutes, credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone in your new car. We're living in a world today that time matters, and they know it at DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales. Dave will be back with us on Tuesday. Glad to have Drew with us, but glad, Drew, as always, to visit with Andy Schiffman from Priority Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Priority BK Ball, Priority Basketball on Twitter. Andy Schiffman, it looks like we're getting close. Adam Silver is about to move the mountain, and the two mountains might be Vegas and Orlando. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well. Appreciate you having me on as always. And it seems likely that we will have NBA basketball by as early as July 2020. The latest news is that teams were honing in on restarting the season in Orlando at Walt Disney, potentially Vegas, potentially Houston as a third potential spot to restart games. But I think they're all going to restart in Orlando if they do as early as July, with some sort of 2 to 3 week training camp happening as early as June once players get through the 2-week quarantine. Because keep in mind, there are players still, like Luka Doncic, for example, that have not returned to the United States from Europe. And so there might be some logistical hoops to jump through, some bureaucracy at hand. But everything that we're hearing, we're moving towards the resumption of the season as opposed to going the other direction, which is exciting.
What are you hearing about schedule? Will it be just the 5 or just the games to get to 70? And I tweeted out today, I saw a great list of all what every team lacks playing, and we have talked about it. Some teams need as many as 7 games to get to 70 for the regional sports network money. The Grizzlies need 5, some as few as 3. What are you hearing on schedule?
Well, there's nothing finite just yet, Seth, and it seems like they are trying to get to this magic number of 70 games. A lot, as you mentioned, a lot of teams, television contracts, and everything associated with TV money hinges on them playing 70 games during the season. And then after that point, there's been talk about going straight into the playoffs, some sort of play-in format to give potentially teams that are not in the playoff picture the opportunity to play in some sort of format of the postseason. I think every team needs to have some opportunity, because otherwise it's hard to motivate those players if they're not playing for anything, if it's a truncated schedule in terms of some sort of playoff system. So nothing's been finalized yet. There hasn't been any sort of final number. I know that's being talked about ad nauseum with the league and the Players Association as well. And now, in the last couple of days, you've had certain, specific NBA players. Spencer Dinwiddie comes out and says the season is resuming as early as the middle of July. At the end of the day, we still don't know. And Adam Silver has said we do not know yet. They are still working on a lot of different questions that they have to have answered before they can resume. The latest news is that they are preparing all the teams to go through mandatory nationwide testing and instructing these team personnel on how to handle that. Players right now, I believe all except for 2 cities have opened up their facilities. Majority of players are going back into the gym. They're going back in for individual workouts, maybe 2 or 3 at a time right now, just to slowly and gradually ramp up to having full team practices.
And Andy, obviously, we want the NBA to come back as soon as possible. Do you think that, let's say tomorrow, the government decides to open up the border and that kind of frees up the teams from Toronto, do you think we could honestly start a little quicker if the border opens up before we think it will?
I don't think necessarily we'll start any quicker, Drew. I think the reason being is even if the border opens up, that obviously will help everything in terms of the Raptors, like you talked about. But again, I think the number one thing that Adam Silver is focused on is restarting when it's safe to do so. And so I think the border to Canada opening up and the season restarting somewhat are mutually exclusive. I think it's all just going to depend on, look, are things safe enough to have professional sports and have these players in this environment? Do we have enough available testing and enough safeguards to know that let's plan worst case scenario? Let's say we go through this season and this is the number of players that we have playing. Do we have enough tests to get through however long of a season we're going to have? What is going to happen if one of the players tests positive? They have talked about not shutting down and canceling the entire rest of the season if one player tests positive, but it's something they have to address. Do you quarantine that individual team? Do you just quarantine that one player? How does that affect the remaining games in that team's schedule? There's a lot of unknowns right now, but I just don't think reopening the border to Canada, in my opinion, would necessarily mean we're going to start anytime sooner. I do think if we don't have a decision here in the next 3 to 4 weeks, then we're probably looking at no season. But again, to my point earlier, every piece of rhetoric we're hearing these days, right, is moving towards restarting, and not the opposite.
Yeah, and we all have been staunch defenders of it's simply business on getting in the 70-game requisite number for regional sports networks. That's huge money. It would be foolish to pass on that. I don't think that's at all out of line for the NBA. Look, sometimes life comes down to finances, and this is one of those. But we want everything to be guarded in safety. The Raptors could very easily, under Nick Nurse, they could go back to back, Andy.
No, absolutely they could. It benefits them. Look, it benefits all these teams, but now you talk about a team that is a relatively younger team with younger superstars, especially with Pascal Siakam. We have Kyle Lowry on the team. He's not quite as young as he once was when he was putting on a Grizzlies jersey. But again, you talk about the success they've had and this extended period of rest. That could absolutely be the case where they make it to the finals, potentially against one of the LA teams, which, it seems likely that they could be facing one of the LA teams. But it's almost, at this point, honestly, the finals and the trophy now are up for grabs to more teams. And I think with this time off, more and more teams now think it is absolutely realistic for them to put themselves in a position to get to the finals and to win a championship, whereas if things were going as they were, that might not be the case. It might have just been looked at as, well, one of the teams, one of the LA teams between the Lakers and the Clippers were never going to get to the finals in the Western Conference. And it was always going to be the Bucks in the East. And I don't think you can say that as definitively today. I think this time off has absolutely helped a ton of players, especially those teams that might have been a little bit banged up. And so you have to imagine, with the exception of a few players, a few teams here and there, some of these top 4, 5, or 6 teams in each conference are coming in fresh and ready, and depending on the length and the complexity of a training camp that they're talking about having, it definitely evens the playing field, in my opinion.
Yeah, Andy, this is obviously going to be a shortened season. We're not sure how the playoffs are going to work out. Do you think that whoever actually does end up winning the NBA Finals this year, that they might, I think, unfairly be lumped in with champions from strike years, even though it has nothing to do with any player or any team? Do you think that they'll kind of get lumped into being viewed the same way as teams that win in shortened strike years?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think you're right. I think there's going to be an asterisk next to their name in the record books for sure. But again, there's nothing to take away from the fact that is a legitimate NBA championship, even if you did it in fewer games. There's no.
Yeah, look at my ring.
Yeah, there's no arguing that. At the end of the day, there's no arguing what a team like the Bucks has accomplished this year, being 53-12 before everything shut down, or a team like Toronto losing their superstar and the record they have and the success they've had. There's no arguing that. The NBA has gotten through the majority of its games, and so there will no doubt be critics and opponents of a champion that sits there and throw shade at the champions, saying, well, they didn't do it legitimately by like this team, like that team. They didn't do it in 82 games. They did it in 70.
You know Draymond will.
Yeah, he will.
Exactly. No, you're going to hear that. But if the tables were turned, what would he say? Would he say, hey, I appreciate this ring. I mean, we take it with a grain of salt. It's not necessarily as sweet as any other NBA championship because it's just not quite the same. No, of course not. Like you said, there's no arguing at the end of the day who brings home a ring and who raises the banner.
That's right, Andy. First, before I ask this kind of cutting question, I want to ask: do you or your agency, do y'all represent Joel Embiid?
We do not.
Okay, then I can ask it. I think this time off for him, great for his knees, but what about his belt line?
Well, hopefully he has a very good nutritionist and personal trainer that basically lives with him every day and makes sure he's eating right. Look, every player is different. Now, in my experience, most players are pretty disciplined in terms of eating right. During the season, they eat their meals at the arena and go in, and the teams have these chefs that cook for these guys. So it's definitely something to be concerned of when you have a player like that whose weight can fluctuate. You look at Zion Williamson, same sort of thing. Just the bigger bodies, who's especially younger like that, whose weight can fluctuate a little bit more. But, again, these guys are professional athletes for a reason.
Yeah. Kind of on the conspiracy side, I want to ask you, because I think your opinion can really put it to rest as somebody in the industry who's privy to a lot more information than us common folks. Is there any legitimate reasoning and backing behind the conspiracy of trying to manipulate the standings to get Zion in the playoffs?
In terms of trying to, what do you mean, to get Zion in the playoffs?
The New Orleans in the playoffs for TV ratings.
Maybe expanded or a tournament for 7 through 12.
I think it's incidental. I think it's no, to answer your question, I don't, especially under Adam Silver. Not how he operates. And look, if it happens that way, there will definitely be that speculation. But again, I just think it's all a coincidence, and it's incidental. Excuse me, I can't talk today. But no, I don't believe so.
And what team, from the bottom of each conference, East and West, do you think could really make some noise? Could a 8th seed Grizzlies, if it's 4 out of 7 or 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5 would be in their favor. It just makes mathematical sense. It'd be easier to beat them 3 times than 4 times.
For sure, but I tend to think, as good as the Grizzlies have been this year, I don't see them surpassing the Lakers if they do stand pat at the 8th seed. And obviously the Lakers have that number 1 seed more than likely locked up there. They're, I think 5.5 games up against the Clippers. That'll be a tough stretch. I think maybe a team like Dallas, if everyone's healthy, could really make some noise against a team like the Clippers, depending on
Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then you're talking about these teams that are just on the outside looking in. I mean, like you talked about, New Orleans, Portland, they're both right outside of the playoff picture as of today. And if you do have a team like Houston that potentially slips a little bit, and Portland and New Orleans all being healthy, wouldn't be shocked to see those teams potentially fight to make the playoffs. I don't think that beyond those 2 teams, or even beyond Washington in the East, you're going to see really anyone that's currently not in the playoff picture climb up, unless you just have a complete downfall of one of these teams in the 6th, 7th, or 8th spot.
Kind of the future players, I'm not sure how many of guys that y'all have signed going into this draft, but how is it affecting them? I mean, obviously the draft is going to get pushed back more. I mean, how are, maybe they've kind of budgeted out what they did have waiting on that first paycheck on a such and such date that now it's going to be months and months back. How is this affecting them? Because I don't think James Wiseman or Precious Achiuwa is going out and getting a job right now.
Correct. Now, luckily for those top picks, that money's going to come. So they're each with an agency that I'm sure is taking care of everything they need to be taken care of right now to get them through the point in time when they do get drafted and they do sign their first contract. And even though the first payday in the NBA doesn't come until November, rookies can get in advance once their contract is approved by the league within 10 days of its signing. Now, like you said, we do not know when the draft will be. It was initially slated for June 25th. There's league-wide speculation that could be potentially as late as beginning of August now. But I think the tougher part is just the whole mental side of this. These players now are typically so used to finishing up a college season and going straight into training for the draft for 3 months, working out for NBA teams, participating in the combine if they do that, and then right into the draft and summer league. And now you're talking about potentially a 5 or 6 month hiatus when you don't know what's going on. There are no individual team workouts. There may or may not be an NBA combine. So right now the focus is all these players can do is interview with these NBA teams. And our players have been doing that on a daily basis here ever since probably about a month ago or so. We've started that up. Some teams are ramping it up more than others, trying to dig in and really get to know these players. Other teams realize, hey, there's not going to be a draft for another at least couple months. There's no rush on this, so let's take our time. So realistically, with my players in this upcoming draft class, I'm spending every day coaching them, instructing them through these interviews, making sure they have everything they need in terms of training and physicality. But they're not in the gym, a lot of them, every single day, getting high-level training like they would be with our agency in Chicago or just across the board with their own specific agencies wherever they're training. And that is something that has to be properly managed. It's very difficult to manage given this time where a lot of gyms are shut down. Players don't have full access to the resources they might have in terms of physical therapy and all the physical aspects that go into managing bodies during this time. So it's just about maintenance. It's trying to keep these young guys positive and letting them know, like, every day that goes by is one step closer to this draft. At some point, we're going to have a draft. We don't know when it is. This doesn't take anything away from the fact that they will be in the NBA at some point in time. It's just might take a little bit longer. So there's a lot of mental coaching and mental preparation that goes into this whole process.
Andy, I didn't realize that for a rookie player, he doesn't get his first check until the season starts and a first game check, or is there a date certain for it? And for you as an agent and for your agency, how much fun is it when that guy calls you and he's popped up that bank account and he sees all those zeros and those commas?
Well, look, I'm in this business not so much for the money. It's just to build players' goals and careers and dreams. And what's most valuable for me is sitting there on draft night, whether it's a player drafted 3 or 60, getting them to start their NBA career, knowing that I had a small part in that, and walking alongside them from the time they leave college to the point in time where they're there in the NBA. And for sure, there are moments, like you said, that bring a smile to my face. Last year, I had a player who was drafted in the first round out of a very small school, and he sent me a picture of his first purchase, which was a Tesla, some newer version of a Tesla, and he said, "Thanks for making my dreams come true." And that's means
great.
The world to me, no matter how much money something costs or how much money these kids make. When I hear something like that, whether it's them being able to buy a house for their mom, them being able to even just get a first paycheck on an advance in the summer to get them through the fall, and even money aside, just getting them drafted in the NBA or signing a contract as a free agent in the NBA, they could be making a penny. I could be doing it for free. Just hearing those words means the world to me, and ultimately that's why I love my job and why I'm an agent.
Yeah, I bet that is phenomenal feeling to know that you helped change somebody's life. To the first purchases, though, what's the weird? You don't have to say names, but what's the weirdest first purchase one of your players has ever made?
You bought what?
Yeah, luckily, guys, for my players and our players at Priority, we stay away from the quote-unquote weird purchases. And I say that because our guys are well-educated. They have great financial people around them. We're in their ear about how they should manage their money to an extent, along with their financial people. They come from great families. So I don't really have any crazy off-the-wall stories of weird purchases. Now, on the flip side, there are players who are potentially, top 20 picks, and we are able to see what contracts they get and how much of an advance they take. And for an example, if I've got a player drafted 20, or let's say right around where Brandon Clark was at 21 last summer, I would instruct them, look, you don't need to live like a millionaire right now. You need enough money to put down on rent for the next few months. I wouldn't recommend buying anything right off the bat in terms of buying property. Get you enough rent through August, September, October, November until you get your first paycheck in mid-November. If you want to buy a car, great. Set aside $30,000 to $40,000 for that. But realistically, anything beyond of an advance, I'm talking about anything beyond $75,000 to $100,000. Most of the time,
Slow
I'll
down.
say it's necessary. But then I'll look at these contracts, and inevitably there will be players who are drafted right around that range every year, and it says in advance they've taken an advance of, $400,000, $500,000, and for sure it's probably to buy a super nice house or a crazy expensive car, but there's no need to do that. In my opinion. So again, take it for what it's worth. But luckily, I can sit here and say we really haven't had many crazy off-the-wall purchases. There's been, like I said, houses for players' families or gifts for brothers or sisters or a nice car. But beyond that, I'm thankful for that because that means they're listening to me.
And I would do the very same thing. I promise you. If it was overnight, I'd be just like Elvis. I'd have me a jungle room, Andy. But I guarantee you, the response back to the youngster that bought the Tesla, I will guarantee you somewhere in the text back to him, keep on working, man. Stay busy. Keep working.
It's just the beginning. That's at the end of the day, it's just the beginning, and we're very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate and lucky and grateful to be working with players that understand that and do a good job of putting away money. Because you look at the situation at hand, you never know what could happen. You're talking about some of these young players as recently as a year ago that took all this money out and blew it all early on, and now you're facing, by September 10th, that's the new deadline now for the league and the union to potentially renegotiate the CBA to address a revised salary cap, which that also could mean revising current contracts and potentially having to renegotiate things, and you just don't know what the future holds. So it's extremely important to accept sound financial advice due to these reasons.
Andy, we are making progress, and I think we will crown a champ at some point in this calendar year for 2020. We might start the 2021 season at some point in this year. This next week before we visit with you again, there will be a lot of news. We've made a lot of ground up this week, and I hope we can again when we talk next Friday. Andy, thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll visit next Friday afternoon with you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You both as well.
Appreciate it, Andy.
You got it. Andy Schiffman with us every Friday, talking the business aspects of the NBA. And during this long pandemic, we've talked about a lot of possibilities for the NBA getting back. I don't want anything to do with that 7 through 12 tournament. We played 65 games for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's got to be worth something. I see getting in the last 5, but I don't see some ham-handed tournament. Do you, Drew?
No, I don't, and I don't think there's any need for it other than the ESPN guys and the big guys
Zion
out there,
factor.
the Zion mania that they have to have Zion. If Zion doesn't make the playoffs, then it waters down the product. I just don't see it. I think Ja Morant, and who will be Rookie of the Year, is just as
and Luka at the 7th spot.
Yeah,
and Luka Doncic in the 7th spot. And I'm sorry that Zion was injured. I wanted to see him all year. I think he was he was supposed to be here MLK Day and was not. Mm-hmm. But he was injured. I hate it for him. He's got to. He's got to get a little better break next year, and it wasn't his fault, but stay healthy. Ja Morant was out there, getting knocked into the camera well night in and night out, and he was playing his rookie year. The Grizzlies have had injuries as well.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson had injuries, and Elliot Perry touched on it. A big addition, healthy, 100%, maybe first time in a couple of years. The Grizzlies roll back out there with Justice Winslow. I don't know if I know they can't pull the upset in the first round over the Lakers, but it'll be fun watching.
Yeah, it will. It'll make it a lot more competitive. I mean, depending on where Justin Winslow is in his rehab, if he's anywhere around 85, 90%, he makes a huge factor. Hopefully the rust isn't there, but that's going to be a factor for pretty much everybody who hasn't played a single game in 2 months.
Will we have playoff fever in Memphis with games being played either in Vegas or Houston or Orlando, the bar scene, the game-watching parties? Will we have playoff fever?
I don't think so, just because we don't have the –
They have to be here.
Yeah, and at the moment, we can't really all congregate together that much. There can really only be 50 total people. I think if
Well, it's a pretty good game watching party at your house, though. If you have 50, can you have that many at your domicile, though?
I don't think I could personally fit 50 people in my house, or really would want 50 people in my house. But I think it'll be nice, but without the growl towels, the wavings, the whoop that trick, it's just not going to feel
the Beale Street scene.
Yeah,
the Beale Street scene.
Beale Street. Got to go to Silky's before and after the game.
And that playoff atmosphere, 2011. It was first time to advance. That was just so much fun. That's among the most fun to ever have had in sports in this town. When we come back, I promise high hard ones, and we got those next on Sportstime.
Spend your lunch with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 Middays, delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
Family Leisure's here to make staying at home more enjoyable for you and your family this summer. Complete pool packages starting at $15.99. 24-foot pools only $19.99. 4-person spas starting at $19.99. Swim spas starting at under $10,000. We are offering contactless purchasing, deliveries, and curbside pickup. Give us a call to schedule an appointment or to place an order. Stay safe with Family Leisure.
Whether you're working remotely, taking web classes, binge watching TV, or gaming, Dell is here to help you find the right tech. From XPS and Alienware computers that are redefining what's possible with 10th gen Intel Core processors to the latest top brand electronics. Our seamless tech solutions will help keep you connected. Plus, get free shipping. Call us today at 1-800-BUY-DELL. That's 800-BUY-DELL.
If you could hear a DQ treat, what would it sound like? A Blizzard treat sounds like family board game night. A Sunday sounds like an indoor movie marathon. And a Fudge and Crunch cake sounds like a birthday wish come true. Ah, the sweet sound of treats. Use takeout or visit the DQ drive-thru for all your favorites. Thank you for making us part of your together.
Listen Sundays at 11 a.m. to join Idlewild Presbyterian Church for worship. Idlewild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Hi. Steve, we're out on Monday for Memorial Day commemoration on Monday and all weekend. Hope everybody can get out and enjoy something from this weekend, but also remember why we have this weekend and the ceremony and ceremonies on Monday. Promise High Hard Ones, they're coming up. And then we will wrap up the show with Taco Bell Crunch Time to wrap up this week and head into our 11th weekend without sports. Maybe only 2 to go without some traditional sports on. Well, may watch a little NASCAR this weekend, and certainly on Sunday afternoon we'll watch some of the golf. Hey, everybody, our friends at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, they say congratulations to the high school and college classes of 2020. Great time to help your grad get that new or pre-owned Chevy. And if you're ready to get that new Suburban, Silverado, Tahoe, or Blazer, or even pre-order one of those hot new Corvettes, All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch, it's where you want to be. The people at All-Star Chevy, they make it fun, easy, and safe, and whatever makes you comfortable. They'll even bring any All-Star Chevy car, truck, or SUV out to you, and you'll pay a lot less than at those city dealers. GM's financing can mean no payments for 4 months and 0 interest for 84 months. Any new Silverado or Equinox, thousands in cash back with Silverados and Blazers and many, many more. Everybody at All-Star Chevy, they've got one job. Make sure you get a better deal, have more fun, and do it all in a record time, and everything safe, clean, sanitized for you. They even pick up and deliver for maintenance and service. Remember, it's not Mount Moriah or Collierville or South Haven. It's not the Pike. It's got to be Olive Branch. Find new roads to All-Star Chevy today or go to allstarautogroup.com. It is that time for High Hard Ones.
Just a bit outside.
mean,
how high and how hard are they, Drew?
Some are pretty high and some are pretty hard.
You coming right at the ear hole? Chin music? What?
I'm gonna start off right at the ear hole here. This week with Memphis doing the 2014 versus 2019 teams virtual matchup head-to-head, I'm going to turn it on you with some Ole Miss football, and I'm giving you two teams that I've selected. They might not be the two best teams in school history, but I'm going with 2003 versus 2015. Who wins?
2003 Eli versus 2015 versus Chad Kelly. I think the 2015 team wins. It was more talented. The 2003 Eli team was very top-heavy. If he had had the receivers from 2015, oh my, if he had had that defense from 2015, and at that time, and it's going to lead into one, I guess it'll be my first one since it's kind of close, I thought in 2015 Hugh Freeze had a better coaching year than David Cutcliffe had in 2003. Good job by David Cutcliffe, but I thought in 2015, winning at Alabama, both of those teams have something in common. I know you know what it is.
They do. They both came to the Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium and walked away with an L.
Decisive L's. Yes. Really, clearly, no doubt, the better team that day. It wasn't going to be first, but kind of in the synchronicity of it, I will ask this. We know last year during coaching carousel time that Hugh Freeze begged Memphis, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State for a job. He would have taken any of those four jobs. Instead, Memphis hired Ryan Silverfield, Arkansas hired Sam Pittman, Mississippi State hired Mike Leach, and Lane Kiffin was hired by Ole Miss. Is he or isn't he a better football coach than all four of those people they hired?
Oh, that's pretty high and hard. I'll give you that one. I'm going to say he's better than Sam Pittman right off the bat. I'm going to say he's better than Lane Kiffin. I'm going to say he's better than Ryan Silverfield. I'm not going to say he's better than Mike Leach. I think Mike Leach has him beat just because of the longevity that Mike Leach has been able to win. I mean, being able to win down in Lubbock, Texas at Texas Tech, being able to win in no man's land up at Washington State, and I think that in that offense that he runs, I mean, year in and year out, his quarterbacks are 1 or 2 in passing yards for every year for the last decade or so, maybe even longer. So I think Hugh Freeze better than 3, but not Mike Leach.
That's exactly it. And it really scared me, the idea of Hugh Freeze at Arkansas.
Yeah, I thought it could have been a
He would have nailed that.
He would have.
I thought it was too, but too close to the Petrino years and too many. Not that it ever hit the front pages, but there were a lot of stuff out there about being kind of party hardy that Brett Bielema was. They wanted somebody a little more buttoned up and that wouldn't cause them any trouble. But on game day, Hugh Freeze is ready on game day. One thing for his coaching development, and I know he doesn't need any advice from me. He's forgotten more about it than I know. But his game plan and his preparation for kickoff, it is excellent. One thing going forward, it may not be at Liberty, it may be at the next big job. When the other team zigs, he's got to zag a little better and adjust to game day changes. Your next one?
Yeah, real quick, just there on Hugh Freeze. Game day wise, he always seemed to be calm,
he was ready
and collective. The only time, and I'm not just saying this because I was there, I'd watched Hugh Freeze play and Ole Miss play a lot of games that season and season after. The only time I ever saw him be rattled was in 2015 at Memphis, especially coming out with the double pass that quickly. You knew that the emotion of being back in Memphis where he was a high school coach for so long. I think that was the only time I ever really saw him rattled.
I think that day he wanted to put the proverbial cherry on top. He wanted to open that playbook up, got off to the 14-0 lead. And remember, he had pasted the Tigers at Arkansas State. Really was fortunate. They were the better team, but it was a much closer game than the
score says.
Than the final score in 2014. It was. But in 2015, after getting out that 14-0 lead, I think he wanted to show off a little bit and going for it on fourth down. And the momentum, it changed the day, and here came the onslaught.
All right, next one. I'll stick with the SEC, and this kind of goes back to the conversations that we had with Pat Smith in the Jackie Sherrill 80 team, 5-16 team for 5 conferences. But unlike Pat, I'm making you kick somebody out. So you have to kick one team out of the SEC. Which school is it, and why is it Mississippi State?
No, you're not dragging me into that.
I'm messing with you.
They're not going to kick anybody out. I know forever it's been brought up about Vanderbilt. It's just never going to happen, and it sure wasn't going to happen as long as Roy Kramer and Mike Slive were around. And I think even it fits for Greg Sankey, and I don't think they should, because maybe not in football, but historically in basketball.
Yeah, I think we're having a little technical difficulties with Brett Norsworthy there. Let's go ahead and get to our next break, and we'll come back on the other side and finish up some hard ones. Hopefully, Brett will be able to reconnect from the avenues of America there in Forest City. So we'll be right back here on Sports 56, Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Want to get your voice heard? Hit us up on the First Bank phone line or First Bank text line.
The folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai want to say thank you. Thank you, Memphis, for another spectacular year. They set records, but I can understand why. You think about the product. Where else do you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty? That's what you get on every new car at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Oh, and thank you again for the 11th straight year, the #1 certified pre-owned car dealership in all of Memphis. It starts with that product, but then it goes to the shopper assurance. Where else do you go where you get transparent pricing, flexible test drive, take the car for a couple of days if you want, streamlined buying process? You're not going to be there all day, in and out. And then, and I have not seen this anywhere else, the 3-day worry-free exchange. You buy a new car, if you've got any buyer's remorse, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Just get on Lamar, take it into Mississippi, the first exit's Craft Road, turn left, and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai.
Start your day at Sunrise Memphis. Located in Midtown, enjoy delicious biscuit sandwiches and all their menu has to offer, with quick and easy to-go and delivery options. Whether it's breakfast, brunch, or lunch, don't distance yourself from great food. For more information on Sunrise Memphis, visit sunrise901.com or call 901-552-3144 to place your order. Stay healthy and eat Sunrise Memphis today.
Hey everybody, our friends at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch say congrats to the high school and college class of 2020. And it's a great time to help your grad get a new or pre-owned Chevy. And if you're ready to get that new Suburban, Tahoe, Silverado, Blazer, or even pre-order one of those hot new Corvettes, All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch is where you want to be. Because the people at All-Star Chevy make it fun, easy, and safe, whatever makes you comfortable. They'll even bring any All-Star Chevy car, truck, or SUV to you. And you'll pay a lot less than at those city dealers. GM's financing means no payments for 4 months and 0 interest for 84 months. That's on any new Equinox or Silverado. Thousands in cash back with Blazers, Silverados, and more. And everybody at All-Star Chevy has one job: to make sure you get a better deal, have more fun, and in record time. And all sanitized and safe for you. They'll even pick up and deliver for maintenance and service. Remember, it's not the Pike, not South Haven, not Mount Moriah or Collierville. It's gotta be Olive Branch, people. So find new roads to All-Star Chevrolet today or go to allstarautogroup.com.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
Pros, keep those exterior maintenance projects going strong. Count on Lowe's for the items and supplies you need to get the job done. And now, take advantage of Memorial Day bulk savings on products like OSB, fence pickets, shingles, and more. We buy in bulk and pass those savings on to you. Shop today at lowesforpros.com. And don't forget, we're open at 6 a.m. so you can get started early and make the most of your day. Together, we can keep your business moving. Price and selection vary by market, U.S. only.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Good job, Drew and Carl. That had to be Hugh Freeze getting me back for saying he doesn't zig and zag enough on game day. Drew, good job on picking it up with the Wi-Fi having a little trouble in a little bit of weather. It should be hitting y'all any second now. I thought it was mostly through, and we had made it mostly through the day, and the equipment's acted so nice during the pandemic, and it did that. But good save, Drew, and we'll pick right back up with high hard ones if you can tell me where we were.
You were answering why you're not going to kick anybody out of the SEC, even though I asked you. I'm
not about to kick.
I said you had to.
You said I had to. I'm not getting in that big of trouble. that one beaned me. I went down for the count. I took the Don Baylor one right in the ribs on that one. No, they'd never do it to Vandy, and it never should be discussed because while by no means a football power, historically they've been really good in men's and women's basketball, and in just recently what they've done in baseball. So the Vandy talk, I don't think will ever happen. Let's don't kick anybody out.
I wasn't even going to go after Vandy because that what they bring in baseball, a school that I think would probably be number 14 on that list of you should probably think about going somewhere else or could kind of get rid of. Maybe
you wanted me.
I think it's South Carolina for what
they
truly
biggest trouble
bring to the table.
The biggest trouble I'll get in, I know they've been to one SEC championship game, and South Carolina fans out there, I know that's one more than Ole Miss. But mostly, and they did go to a Final Four, and they did win a national championship in baseball. So I'm going to defend. No, I'm going to defend South Carolina. I'm not going to get in trouble. You wanted to get me in trouble and me say state and just watch my Twitter mentions and the text line melt, and you know I'm not going to do that because I don't believe it.
Brett, I had to set you up for a long weekend. That way you have 3 days till you can defend yourself. You got to take it for 3 days.
All right. Grizzlies stay in the 8th spot and play Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, whether it's best of 5 or best of 7. We talked about it won't be playoff fever even at TV watch parties, but will the local TV rating be large, medium, or small?
I'm going to say large due to the fact of kind of you miss what you haven't had type of thing. You know, I can't miss you if you don't leave. Well, the NBA and sports in general have left us, so we're going to watch everything and anything, and especially with our Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs, even if it is down in Orlando or out in Vegas, we're going to watch just because we've been so deprived and so thirsty for
Drew, we
content.
watch Summer League.
Exactly, we do. And, I mean, we rank in top 5 markets for Summer League. We rank top 5 for pretty much everything just because we are a sports town. We'll sit here and watch any sport anytime. If it's big, the ratings are going to be big in Memphis.
I wish our fannies in the seats, I wish our ticket buying public, I wish that was as big as our consumption on radio and TV public. And I love you consuming on radio. Keep consuming.
Keep going.
We need you now more than ever. but I kind of see the Grizzlies fandom on Twitter, and sometimes I want to respond of, I sure hope you're going to the game as much as you're, digging at somebody else over something.
Yeah, if you're the...
And I think they are.
Yeah, I hope that the angry Grizzlies fans and NBA fans that like to dig on Twitter, well, I hope you are one of the 7,000 that's consistently there game in and game out, because if you're not, then, you really have no room to talk.
All right, you for me.
All right, I'll stick with the NBA. This has been tossed around good mouth this week, but we haven't touched on it here on Sports Time. Would Michael Jordan and LeBron be good teammates?
No way. Look, the stage really should have one star on it. The team of stars in the NBA. It is occasionally worked. It has worked with Kobe and Shaq, but we know how they got along, right? And we also, a little bit in Miami, it started out a little happier with the big three with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron than it ended. And more times than not, you have to have that preeminent superstar the next guy, the Robin, the second guy, and then the satellite guys. No, I don't think it would have made it. Now you see LeBron's quotes this week that he would love to have played with him. Yeah, until he gets all the attention.
Yeah, until we quit asking LeBron his opinion on COVID-19,
everything.
on everything, on women's fashion, for goodness sake. Because if it's a topic in the world, we've got to get King LeBron James's input on it.
Well, in fairness to him, he is being asked that question.
Yes.
Why do we have to go to him on every topic?
I don't know. I've never once, saw something in the medical community like COVID-19 or something in politics and really questioned how I think about something.
Oh, I got to go ask LeBron tonight about
it. He'll clear it up for me. No, I don't need LeBron telling me about politics or medicine, just like I don't need a doctor telling me about basketball.
You just wonder if LeBron do you think LeBron ever gives any of those guys or gals heads up of, hey, ask me this, I want to weigh in on it? You think he ever does that?
It's got to be, because he always seems way too prepared for those off the wall, outside of basketball topics. He always seems way too prepared for them. He can't be that caught up on current events.
You want to watch your eyes bleed, go to 67129 at the First Bank text line, and the texter is right. And I'm going to do it in his voice. You can ask him his opinion on the freedom of the Chinese people.
Yeah, you can, but you won't be getting an answer. Because
No, they shut that down. Did you see the conversation with Tillman Fertitta and the president the other day at the business person roundtable? And Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, and then the president asked him about his general manager and Daryl Morey, and asked him if he fired him.
No, I did not see.
How do you think Daryl Morey was thinking that day? Go, no, not fired yet. Let me check my text.
Just got to make.
All right,
sure.
Whose question is it? Me for you, isn't it?
It's you. Yeah.
All right, Tom Brady, he's going to play golf on Sunday, and we see the documentary coming our way about him. He's 6-3 in Super Bowls all time. That means he's 9-0 in AFC Championship games. That's easy math. It could be any combination of that 9 in Super Bowls. He could be he could almost be anything. What would be easier argument for you to make? That he should be 9-0, or he should be 0-9?
Ooh. I'm going to say should be 0-9. And I know that's might be the unpopular opinion, but you got to think realistically. Think about all the Super Bowls that he did win. They weren't barn burners. He wasn't blowing people out of the water. Tom Brady wasn't.
The biggest margin was 13. It was 13-3 over the Rams in a dull game.
Yeah.
That if Jared Goff and the Rams offense had decided to make the flight to Atlanta, they might have been in the game.
I mean, if the Falcons decided that they wanted to stop celebrating and actually finish the football game, they would have won. Go back to the first one.
Had it won.
The first one, I believe, against the Rams, won on a last-second field goal. That was how a lot of his was. So I think it was a play here or there. A team just doesn't give up. A ball bounces the right way. He's 0-9
I think the easy.
They were so close.
Now it's a hard one, but it's also a little bit inane to argue 9-0 or 0-9. But I think the argument is definitely for 0-9. And who knows if it had started 0-1, would he have ever been in another one with the Patriots?
You honestly don't know. Say he does lose that game, they give Drew Bledsoe another opportunity, and Tom Brady.
They paid him a lot of money. Yeah, and Brady goes out there in free agency and ends up the quarterback in Carolina. You know, who knows? That first one really did set off the domino effect, the big effect for him becoming TB12. Now he'll be TB12 in TB. Your question.
All right, I'm going to stay with NFL here. The proposed 4th and 15 to keep the ball after score rule, one, is ridiculous, and I'll talk more about it in crunch time. But if you could come up with a crazy rule to add to football, what would it be?
Crazy rule to add to football. Is this crazy enough? No fair catches on punts? or would that be too dangerous?
That'd be
too crazy and dangerous.
Yeah.
After you've entered into the red zone, you have to go for it.
I like it.
On fourth down, you have to go for it. Get the field goals out.
I like that idea. It just makes it more exciting. It truly brings it down to 4-down territory.
No more playing for a field goal. And I've just made all the field goal kickers out there mad at me.
Well,
and they are very important because we've Adam Vinatieri in that first Tom Brady Super Bowl.
Well, now they just have to kick from 35 and beyond.
Yeah, I don't think Vinatieri was inside the red zone on that one either. All right, let me amend it. From the 20 in, you must go for it.
So you're still going to give them 5 more yards window?
Yeah, from the 20 on, you must go for it instead of settling for the routine tack on 3 that usually it is. All right, one more for me, one more for you, and then we will get into Taco Bell crunch time. On August 30th, 2025, Ole Miss set to play the USC Trojans at the Coliseum. How many of these people will be there? A, Lane Kiffin. B, junior quarterback for Ole Miss, Arch Manning. C, Brett Norsworthy. Or D, O.J. Simpson.
Oh, man.
How many of us are there?
I'm going to say for sure C, Mr. Brett Norsworthy will be seeing a game from the Coliseum out there in sunny L.A. I'll say yes on OJ. I think you'll even get a chance to meet the juice. How old
would OJ be then? About 79 or so?
Yeah, a little bit less.
Does that sound right?
Looking, yeah. But I'll say you'll meet the juice. I'll say Lane Kiffin is there. I think he'll be the first coach to make it to 6 seasons since David Cutcliffe. I'm going to have to say no to Arch Manning.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
That's going to be that.
That's the one I want there more than me.
I know. I've got to draw the line there. I think he'll probably end up.
I can't go through it again.
Maybe at his uncle's old stopping grounds up there in Knoxville. Maybe the dreaded. Maybe be in dreaded Baton Rouge. I've heard that's a big possibility for Arch to stay in Louisiana. So I'll give you 3. You get to meet the juice, though. That's always nice.
Boy, that is the parting gift there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
and for me, the idea of going to Tiger Stadium and seeing him in Tiger Gold. Oh my! What have I done wrong in life? All right, one more for you. Ask me.
Real quick, Joseph Dorcius has a above average chance to win the Bullsworth Award this year.
Yeah, Brandon Burlsworth. Yeah, it's a great award, and he was a great person.
Do you think he will win it?
I hope so, and that is the award for the guy that nobody really gave a chance to, and he excelled and exceeded. Brandon Burlsworth had just been drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, would have been probably a long-standing teammate, anchoring that offensive line for Uncle Peyton, for Arch Manning's Uncle Peyton Manning, and was killed just a few days after being drafted. He was from Harrison, Arkansas, was not that great a college player, a high school player, and then just got better and better over time. And I knew very well the man that was his offensive line coach his first 3 years at Arkansas, the late, great Mike Bender, and then Mike Markison had him his senior year, and he just got better and better. I hope Dorcius wins that. And, we've come full circle. Back to the Dorcius injury that night in Oxford. It's time for Taco Bell Crunch Time.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! This is for all the biggest crunch time. You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
Take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Drew, I learned today, full extension of the contract from Mike Bianco at Ole Miss Baseball. Earned and deserved. What'd you learn today?
Learned today that Naomi Osaka is now the #1 top earning female athlete in the world. She passed Serena Williams this year. Osaka, she earned $37.4 million from June 1st of last year to June 1st this year. Not sure how that really works out, but that's what Forbes had to say.
I could do without any criticism that he's too involved. Thank goodness that he has been, especially during this. And that's David Rudd and his leadership at the University of Memphis and his involvement in sports. I'm glad that he is. Imagine if he was disinterested during all this. What is it you could have done without?
I mentioned it during High Hard Ones. I could have done without this proposed rule of 4th and 15. If you convert it after a score, you get the ball back, and obviously it was proposed by the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be voted on May 28th. I'm guessing we're looking at a 1-31 vote. I have no belief that this will pass.
Mike DeCourcy about to lose his mind on Twitter about it. He is very anti this. What are you keeping? It is. What are you keeping a close eye on for this long holiday weekend?
Keeping a close eye. Obviously going to watch Woods and Manning versus Mickelson and Brady, but mainly keeping a close eye on Rob Manfred. When is he finally going to speak? Is he going to shock me and tell me that he actually has a plan, is going to make his first good move as commissioner of Major League Baseball? That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping for the same, and I hope we owe Rob Manfred an apology in a week or two. Or I don't mind it. I'll be ready to offer it up, but it's so many times it's so feckless and so reactionary. It's his biggest move. Yeah, going to keep an eye on the baseball odds re-release. That's a good sign. Yankees and Dodgers are the prohibitive favorites. Got to be hardcore negotiations going on behind the scenes in baseball. The hit and giggle golf, I'm going to watch it and also see if Dak Prescott gets paid this weekend. Thank you so much to you guys. Drew, great job. Carl, great job as always from y'all, especially with the technical difficulties we had there. It was a good one on the fly. I knew Brother Freeze would get me back on the zigging and the zagging. He got me. We'll be back on Tuesday. Dave will be back with us. For Dave, for Drew, for Carl, I'm Brett. Everybody have a safe, somber, solemn, and respectful commemoration this Memorial Weekend. See you Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years